on my mind. Hello and welcome to episode 45 of the award-winning combat sports podcast, The Boxing Show. With me, your host, Rob Tebbett. As always, I'd like to remind everybody to please like, comment and subscribe. Turn your notifications on for more boxing content. Now that's out of the way, I am joined by the usual twosome returning from Saudi Arabia, Mr. Barry Jones and Mr. Andy Clark. Chaps, we've got an awful lot to get through this past weekend, but first things first, have you downloaded the Boxing News app?
I have.
There we go. Barry? He's going to do it. He's going to do it now. Well, we're going to put it up to the fact that it's geo-blocked in Saudi at the minute, and obviously he's just returning from Saudi, so you know Barry's always going to be.
No, just make sure you pay me.
Oh, there we go.
How are you, mate? You okay? Hi, hi. You know, I haven't downloaded the Boxing News app, not at all, because that's like no, I don't believe in it. I don't. No, I didn't know you were doing an app. You didn't tell it. You didn't share it. You showed it with your mate, but you didn't share it with me. So no, I didn't. I got to say about Saudi. The funny thing about Saudi, we were there, right? I had to go. I went to speak to Andy. I seen Andy day one. We were there from Sunday. We were there Sunday as well, I guess.
Yeah.
We never spoke for like fucking all week. And it was like, what was it? Like was that the Friday? So
oh, it was a press conference day. I think. It was. But it was funny, yeah, because you see people around. You think, well, actually, these are people I see all the time. So you don't really feel any. And then I realised myself, I was going to do the same thing that day. So I just thought,
you never though?
I haven't actually gone over to speak to Barry yet.
So literally, I see him almost every Monday. I'm like, and then we walk usually to the train station, have a fucking moan about shit, and then like, I go in like, he's literally stood fucking by there, and we haven't even looked at each other. And I think I'm not sure we went that right at the beginning. I can't. And suddenly I went over. I said, we haven't spoke yet. It's fucking weird, isn't it?
The funny thing about it was that we would generally go on slightly before you, and then you would come off slightly before us, and yeah, you kind of gone basically by the time we finished. But that was what was really enjoyable about it, I felt, was that you're just surrounded by people. You didn't have to speak
to me.
You're surrounded by people you see all the time. And it's not like you never want to meet new people, but at the same time it just felt nice and comfortable. I
had the best trip ever.
I had such a good time.
Fucking great time, me. Absolutely fantastic.
It was really good.
I did so much shit. Like brilliant. Roller coaster.
I was going to say you went on a roller coaster, didn't you?
Which was, it was so funny. So like they had all the talent. Talentless on like I work for it's a brilliant company to work for. But and then they had this girl, Olivia, bless her, she had to go on 4 times, like one after the other, in this massive roller coaster that spins round, fucking takes you everywhere, and asked predictions of each fight on the main bill. So we were all a bit nervous, but Darren Barker was shitting himself. I mean, so I take the piss. He went first. I take the piss out of him until just before they went, when they put the seat on you, the little locks you in, and you could see him go fucking white, like he looked awful, and I stopped laughing at it then. And you've seen the video, I don't know if you've seen the clip, have a look at it, and he screamed his head off, and you could hear him, so fucking funny. But he did it, and same with Ariel Helwani. So I did mine, and I wasn't too bad actually. I was pretty good. Mine was probably boring. But then I went on again. It was brilliant. So I'll go on again now, and I sat in front of Ariel Helwani, and he was a lovely guy, by the way. And he was fucking screaming like a little girl. It was fucking so funny. That was good. Then me and Darren did this. I know, like you simulate skydiving.
Yeah.
It was like this. It was fucking mad.
Oh, you dived onto that big air
yeah,
jet.
Did you see the massive net? And,
yeah.
This Boulevard World is fucking huge. It's proper racist as well. So they got, and it's not me saying this is about. So they got like
always wary where you're going with.
No, they got China, they got like New York, like America part of it, and they got like a London, which is the British part, English of course, yeah. And then they got like China part, like a Chinatown thing. They got this massive transformer, but they're selling fake T-shirts and fake handbags. Fucking unbelievable, like genuinely selling fake T-shirts and handbags, like fucking mad.
It's a hell of a place. I had a good wander around it.
I
think I had a proper look around it after the weigh-in because that was the day where we kind of finished earliest. So I went and had a proper look around the whole thing, and it's wild. I mean, the London bit is quite small, And there's not really a lot there. There's kind of like
Monopoly.
a London Bridge.
Monopoly fucking
that's
shop,
sort
isn't it?
of it.
Just
really.
a load of angry, pissed off commuters. Like,
Yeah.
make it really
Yeah.
like make it
I
really like
couldn't
London.
get around it all.
No, I couldn't quite. I'm pretty sure I did. I don't know. I think I did get around most of it, but I didn't really manage to find.
Company, work for Sky. They're not going on roller coasters and
Sky
dicking about. Man,
There's no way I'd have gone on a roller coaster. I've been on a roller coaster for I don't know how long.
I used your broadcast was awful. No, this is not by me saying. I didn't hear it, but like I heard it was awful.
It's funny because when we come in here, we're all on the same team, the boxing show.
I can't even be bothered to respond to
it. You're like the Bloods and Crips when you're in the field, aren't you? Really, you sort of seeing each other from across the way, and this is what we do at the boxing show. We bring all sides of the boxing industry together. You've got Barry of DAZN and pretty much anyone that will pay him.
And him, no.
Andy, he's Sky Sports, Andy Clark, you know.
We were like two prostitutes from the 70s fighting on a street corner.
Okay, this is taking a very
like who's getting more work. I'm like, hang on a minute, like,
taking a very strange.
I don't really want to work.
All I wanted to
I
do
don't really
was
want to
plug
work
the
with
fucking
Dev,
app,
but
to be honest with you. Like, all I want to do is plug the app. I'm hearing about racist prostitutes and all sorts of stuff. But anyway,
I want to. Can we turn off? I got to tell you the story.
No, we can do that afterwards, or we can make that available on paywall. Actually,
remind it
to be.
Speaking of pay.
No. Anyway, if you haven't, and I'm sure Barry's obviously joking, he definitely has downloaded the Boxing News app. He hasn't really, but you can get it now. The Boxing News Predict and Score app available on the Apple Store and of course the Play Store. So if you're Apple,
I don't even
Android,
watch this stuff. What?
You can get it. Don't worry, you can get this as well. By the time this goes out, this will be on the brand new Boxing News app. Boxing News Predict and Score. You can get your predictions in. You get the live scorecard feature, which was very, very popular on Friday for all of those fights. So obviously we're going to come on and talk about Nick Ball and Ray Vargas as we go. But yes, that is my opening plug. There'll be a few more as we proceed throughout the boxing show today. But anyway, guys, there's a lot to get through. So let's start with the top and work our way down. Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou. I think we all sat here and we were kind of, I guess, quietly excited or quizzically excited. I think we all were looking forward to the show.
Nervously excited.
Didn't really know what we were gonna encounter, but what we did encounter, Andy, was a hellacious knockout from Anthony Joshua, pulverizing Francis Ngannou into the dirt in the second round. What a knockout!
It was crushing. It really was. And if the Fury fight hadn't happened, if Ngannou hadn't had that fight with Fury, then I don't think we would be greeting the knockout or the performance with quite the reaction that it's got, because people would have looked at it and thought, okay, well, that's what you should do to somebody who's barely never boxed. And people would probably look at the spectacle as a whole and say, well, it should never really have happened. And some people still are, but they're being wise after the event, because he did what he did against Fury. He very nearly beat the WBC heavyweight champion. In some people's eyes, he did beat him. So that put him at a certain level. It was always difficult to quantify exactly what level he was at, but what Joshua did to him was absolutely brutal. I mean, it was something to see. That there is nothing like the knockout in any sport, nothing like it at all. And I think that'll be a very difficult one for him to get over Ngannou, because he would never have thought in his worst nightmares that something like that could happen to him, because he's very interesting to listen to about elite sporting mentality. You know, he spoke well about it during the week, and like all top performers, they have this realism that of course you could lose. You're absolutely determined you won't lose, but if you compete at the top, of course you almost certainly will. And they all accept as well that anyone can knock anyone out. You know, if you get hit with one you don't see coming, then you can go. Everybody says that. But that's not what that was. He saw them. He just couldn't do anything about it. He got bulldozed. He got absolutely smashed to pieces. And I don't know how you explain that to yourself. So I think that's going to be a tough one for him. He actually came to the press conference afterwards, which I wasn't really expecting. He arrived halfway through, and that would have been his decision. And if he decides he's going to go, then that's what's going to happen. It's not going to be possible to talk him out of it. But I didn't really feel like he needed to be there, given what had just happened to him, because that right hand, he just stepped in and threw that right hand. And the referee was right to let it go on. A couple of people said to me afterwards, well, did we really need to see that? This is boxing. And in some fights, the knockout is the natural conclusion. To some people, if you don't follow the sport, that might seem a bit barbaric, but the knockout is a natural conclusion to a lot of fights. But the way his legs just folded underneath him and he kind of flopped onto his back like he'd been poured onto the canvas, he was out for a good while as well. It was heavyweight boxing, and that's what, that a lot of the time, that is what people come to see. And you have to give Joshua the credit, as always, because it was, to see it up close, there's nothing like it. That adrenaline shot, that electricity charge of seeing that. And it was deep into the night. I don't think it necessarily needed to happen quite so late, the main event, but when it arrived, it was pure adrenaline pretty much from the start.
Before we move on, you seem to know quite a lot about this notion of the knockout, Andy. Where can one go to find out more about the art of the knockout?
If you go to Amazon,
right.
I don't think I mentioned it. If you go to Amazon, you can pre-order the knockout by Andy Clark.
I'm not going to the jungle just to find out what it's like to get knocked out. That's just a stupid statement to me. You've said some silly things in your time to go to the fucking jungle just to read your book. No, I will do it, probably.
I see.
Yeah.
You genuinely lost me there.
Ignored you again.
But it's all of that. All of that stuff, all of the stuff we'll talk about around the knockout is exactly what it's about, basically. But it will be, it will be that. It'll be hard for Ngannou because there are different types, and one of the worst ones to try and get past, I think, is something that you never thought would happen to you. And he never would have thought that would happen to him. Never that anyone could do that to him. It would never even have crossed his mind that somebody could just take him apart like that. So, I think he's in for a really rough few weeks. And you could see it on his face when he was sat at the press conference. He knew where he was and he knew what was happening, but I don't think at that point you're not able to process exactly what it is that's just happened. That's probably occurring with him now, the last day or two. But it's, 272 pounds of pure muscle, and he was just ironed out.
Barry, I watched an interview from Ben Davison, of course, trainer of Anthony Joshua, afterwards, where kind of in a very simplistic way basically said, we'd been told about his granite chin and we'd been told that he had a chin that was this, that and the other, and knees and elbows. And we thought we weren't convinced, so we thought we'd try and find out. We spoke before the fight about, letting him know what he's got, letting him know what he's in there with. And they did just that in the first round. They found the chin and found that it couldn't take.
He did say to me, Ben Davison, during the week off camera, that was what was going to happen. And he was right.
I would say, he does have a great chin. And getting hit with those little gloves is probably more impactful in UFC. But being able to throw a punch and throw a correct punch are two different things. And they are. You get the weight in the shot, you can knock anyone out when you swing your punch, when you swing your arm if you're a big lump. But when you punch correct, like Joshua did, certainly, but I think the first right hand was so lovely and neat. He didn't overextend like he did with the last one because he knew there was nothing coming back. It was just a lovely, clean, fluid shot. It was just so smooth. He didn't just turn his body. He didn't have to put anything on it. It was clean. Boom, dropped him. And he was not seriously hurt, but he's shocked. The last one was like he just went. He knew when he's in that corner. He knew exactly what he was going to do. There was no thought, but and he tipped his leg, put his left arm out, and he just went, and he punched right through him, right through his head. Unbelievable. But when you get hit with someone who knows how to punch, clean, make sure they turn their hand over as well. So they hit with the front two knuckles, you got all that impact. It's not with this or that or anything. It's proper shot. Punch from the shoulder, push right through, pushed off the back leg. Everything's perfect with it. He bended his legs and everything to get full power. Even lifted the elbow to chop down it, just get that extra little bit of torque. Like, you're not getting it. I don't care if you're the best chin in the world. A shot like that is going to be at that weight. It's going to be very difficult to get up. You're going down, whoever you are, that's the truth of it. Like, this is the sheer weight's going to push you down. But a beautiful shot. It really was. And no shame he got knocked out by Anthony Joshua. But it didn't expose Ngannou. He's just out of his. It was always going to happen. We were always attentive. We're nervous because about my Fury fight, but really, we would do all week. We were talking about Ngannou's chances because you got to, at a broadcast, you got to try and big up both fighters, and then you just stop yourself and go, she's mad.
Yeah,
it's mad. They were even saying the guy who's won fight and lost it. By the way, regardless who he was against, he won fight, he's lost it, and I was up against an Olympic gold medalist, a silver medalist in the World Championships, a 2-time world heavyweight champion of the world. and don't say world twice for, just to emphasise it. And we're trying to give him a chance. It's ridiculous. But it was a worry, and I fancied Joshua for the stoppage, like we all sort of did. But I think we all thought it was going to be later, and he was going to be exhausted, and that sort of scenario.
Yeah, and the referee jumping in because we didn't need to see him.
He'd be on the corner, mashed up with
it. Breaks him down. I think like, and it's something that I really want to talk about here. And obviously we're gonna jump around. There is so much to cover on the card as well. Like, for me, and obviously going into the fight, we'd only had that one fight against Fury, where I think it's fair to say, regardless of what you thought about Fury, you couldn't help but be impressed with what Ngannou did. But it seemed to me, Barry, a lot of the credit that certainly I myself had given Ngannou, which I think the big one was not panicking and it looked very different on the night. He was biting to all the feints. There were big reactions to everything Anthony Joshua was doing. What do you think caused that?
I always felt, I could have said, people go back and listen to some of the things I've said on other platforms. No, I don't listen to other platforms. But I always thought this was going to be a harder fight for him. People were saying, look, he's going to be right in front of him. He knows where he is. I said, but he keeps his shape well. So even though you've got a body in front of him, you haven't got a target to hit. His hands are, his elbows are tucked in nice and tight. And he's in and out with the feet. But Fury gives you an opportunity to hit him. So when he's on form, you can't touch him. He invites you in and then plays for you. But when he's not on form, his timing's out, then he plays you, but he can't get back in time. He gets caught. And also, Fury never really tried. He tried to push forward a bit, but it's not the same intimidation factor that Anthony Joshua has. Because when he don't look, even though he's big, he doesn't look intimidating. And in the end, then he was moving around anyway, so he allowed Ngannou to take them center of the ring and feel comfortable in there. Joshua didn't allow him that. He put his front foot in the centre of the ring most of it, in that short fight it was, and made Ngannou have to take the step back. So he's just not used to it. It's just that, like all great fighters do, just like dictate the pace. And then you start to panic, then you make him a reactive fighter. He's not a reactive fighter, is he? He's a bully, not in a bad way, because he's so strong, he has to fight that way. And Joshua's a bully because he has to fight that way as well. But he knows how to do it because he's done it for fucking much longer. I don't know why it was so complicated. So he didn't have the same intimidation factor that he had against Fury. He couldn't get the same momentum and anything like that. Couldn't get nothing to it. So I always thought he was going to tire because of that scenario. I didn't see that though. I just didn't. I didn't think Joshua would. I thought Joshua had to show real discipline just to go through the gears, break him down, go for the phases, break him down. It's good jab in and out. Don't worry if you hit him with a good shot. Don't go, I got him, just in case he throws one back. Because he have got long arms and I think he generally has crazy power. He caught Joshua with a few shots earlier. Yeah. You see Joshua felt it. But again, I think he's a different guy now and he didn't panic so much. I look back at the Ruiz 1 fight and he didn't unravel immediately in that.
No.
I think we all think he did, and he unravelled. He did in the end unravel.
Yeah, but it's really interesting you say that because people, they look back on things and they get reframed. And this idea that he's got a weak chin comes from that fight because that's the only time he's been stopped in the 3 defeats. But he was stopped on his feet. He kept getting back up and he got hit high on the head with a left hook. And
as he was throwing, by the way.
You can't, and they never would, like... professionals of any description really, they're reluctant to say that anything is down to bad luck, but the chances of being caught with that kind of punch are pretty small, and actually. And if it had been slightly lower, he caught it on the glove, slightly higher, it skims the top of his head. I mean, he paid the ultimate price for a fractional error in that fight is what happened, basically.
And he had to throw that left hook in the Ruiz fight. He had to throw the left hook because he had Ruiz on the rail, didn't he? He had him going. So but what he did do when he started in that fight, when he did start to tire, you could see the panic on his face. Yeah. And also what happened with that fight, there was a residual effect in all his other performances after.
Yeah, of course.
Up until the last couple, that's the truth of it. There has been. So, but now he looked, I think he's a 1 fight novice. Fucking madness, isn't it? But he looked full of confidence. He looked confident from the start. He looked confident all week, I thought. There was a bit at the weigh-in, or was it the press conference? He didn't look too happy. He looked a little bit, sometimes he looks like he zones out a bit, doesn't he? But I think they kept him waiting for a fucking hour at the press conference. It was the worst press conference ever, by the way, I thought. I mean, I was sort of saying, he should just get up and fucking leave. Like, they went to him last. I think there's got to be he was there sat there for like an hour, waiting to be talked. No one spoke to him. All we really want to hear from is Ngannou and fucking...
just start with them and then you could come back to them at the end.
He was the last one. Like, I mean,
or maybe start with the promoters. I understand why they need to have their say. But yeah, I thought
but as a TV...
He was sat there a long time.
I mean, do them after. If it's a TV show as well, and for the public to sell the fight, get them two straight away. Get the promoters in first, obviously. Get them two straight away and go down Bill, and then the TV can shut off anytime they want to, and everyone else there for the press and everything, we can all hear the rest of it. But I mean, for that, to keep them two waiting for so long was just beyond, like, you know, by the time we got to Joshua, we didn't care what he said. You know, it was done. But that's the only time he looked a little bit, fucking hell.
Yeah, I don't think you don't need the trainers in the press conference. I don't think they were bothered. Ben Davison, I don't think would probably preferred not to have done it. Dewey Cooper's a great talker, but again, he had plenty to say during the week. I mean, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't. It's anyway.
But what a night! I thought it was a fucking great night, and that
was.
And even though it was like 3:15 in the morning, whatever it was, which was a long fucking old stretch, even for me, but it was well worth the wait. It was well worth
absolutely.
The wait. And I don't know what it was like at home. I've seen the clips on TV. I don't know if it was home, but like I'm literally, I could almost touch him. And when he fell down, it didn't look real. It felt like I was watching a fucking cartoon or a computer game or something. The way he bent over, it was just weird. Like
that's the thing about watching
like
really
clay melting, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing about watching really big men fall, is that it's an absolutely wild spectacle, because just a few minutes beforehand he's striding to the ring looking like a superhuman, and then all of a sudden they're incredibly fragile and vulnerable, and the two things just don't equate. It's just this really sort of incongruous spectacle, and that's why it is just this mega thing. And you watch them go down and you just think, holy shit. And then he's unconscious and you're thinking to yourself, Christ, I hope he wakes up, because
it gets to that point,
bad things can happen.
It gets to that point, sort of a minute and a half, and you're like, he's still not up. And then that's... And look, I think you just touched on something that you said earlier on, Andy. I think everyone loves to be a Monday night quarterback, probably on a Sunday with a Friday fight.
Would say an after timer.
Well, no, you say... You know what Andy mentioned earlier about the fact that, look, had this fight have been the first one and it would have gone like that, I think everybody could have been up in arms about it. But he went 10 rounds and won 4 of them or whatever, and scored a knockdown against Tyson Fury in the first fight.
So the guy we think would be Joshua.
Yeah, so you can only take it for what it is in that moment. But I mean, the longer it went on, the more those thoughts of, fuck, he is an 0-1 novice and he's just been ironed out like that, do inevitably enter your mind, don't they? But
yeah, they do.
Having said that, you can only take Ngannou for what we had of him at the time, which is that, you know, he was clearly a dangerous man. I thought as well, like, as much as I did feel like he was a lot more reactive to the things that Joshua was doing than he was potentially for Fury.
Like you said, with the feints, they got a big reaction, and his face
But when he's throwing those left hooks, when he's biting on the feints, you do not want to be caught by one of those shots.
Absolutely not.
He throws long as well.
Yeah, you do not want to be caught by one of... You could tell, like, the moment of success that he did have when he sort of like bundled Joshua against the ropes, and sort of a cuffing right hand, you can see the right hand sort of move Joshua. Yeah. And like from the outside, you think, fuck, there's weight in that shot. So I mean, whether or not Joshua expected it to go as early as he did, or he thought, I mean, Lennox Lewis always says about fighting a puncher, you go at a puncher, you take him out. Don't leave him in there as long. Like, go at the puncher, go at him, take him out. Whether or not Joshua thought, maybe, break him down, wait for the shot, 3-4 rounds, whatever, and then he felt that and thought, actually, you're going, mate, because we don't need to be in here any longer than we need to be.
Yeah, if he's standing there and thinks, I could see some gaps, I'm just going to get this done.
But he was very methodical, I thought, in the way that he did it. There was I think early in like the first 30 seconds, he dips the knees and you can see Ngannou just go, whoa, and then he just goes and even when he scored the first knockdown, there's like 40 seconds left of the round before the end of it. And he was relaxed. It was kind of like, no, it's coming. Don't worry, you're getting it, but it's not going to be now.
And he was taking those shots. So in the past, he would have took those shots and he would have either rushed his work or gone right into his shell in the last a few years. And he was a different animal, he was.
The confidence he took from that Wallin fight was really important. And I understood people saying during the week, and I made the point myself because it was one that needed to be made, was that he was familiar with Wallin and he knew what he was getting and all the rest of it. And psychologically.
Still only one fight.
Yeah,
and as well.
And all of those things. But the confidence he took from that was key because, I mean, confidence is just so massive in all sports, but particularly a sport like boxing, and you've got this really fine tipping point between being just a bit too concerned about what might be coming back or just the right amount concerned about what might be coming back, and he's just gone from one side of the line to the other where he understands that there's going to be stuff coming back, and what happened against Andy Ruiz could happen again because it can always happen, but at the same time that's okay. It's worth the roll of the dice because that split second longer I'm going to give myself to throw that punch that Barry described. I have to do that because if I don't, I won't get that result. And the trade-off is worth it, and it's all down to confidence. It just all comes down to that. It's as basic as that, really.
You have to be aware enough to be able to react.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of what's coming. But you have to be aware. But if you're over aware or wary, I guess is probably better. Then you don't react, or you react in a negative.
Yeah,
manner.
No, that's
in a negative manner. You put yourself on the back. And you put
that's the perfect way to describe it. You need to be aware. No, you need to be aware.
I got one.
You need to be aware, but not wary. That's the perfect way to describe it, because one is your mind is present. The other is you're thinking too much about one thing.
Yeah, you're almost inviting it because you're expecting it to happen. He was very, very good. But after I went to see him after the fight because we're good mates. We go back a long way. Never spoke to him before, but even in the change on the way to the out of the press conference, I still outside. It was packed, that press conference. So I was still outside, and we had him. I was working for BBC at that point. I sacked off the Zone, and I did 12 hours with him, and then we had him. Once he had him on the podcast, but he was looking at me and he was going, "Was that all right?" He's still like.
Maybe watching this now. Shout out AJ.
No, but even then, he's still like, "Is that good enough?" Like, he don't care what I say, but I think he probably said to a lot of people, "Oh, was that good enough?"
So wow. AJ, I would have.
I just go like,
see that Acelino Freitas? You see, look at him go down. Right, that's enough of that. Your right hand was just like mine.
Never mind that.
It was a left leg, you prick. I've only been working with you for 2 years, 3 years. But like it was like, but even then though, he's always like, I got it, just. Is that enough? Is that right? He's always looking to I think he's always looking to improve himself, always looking to get better. But
it's something that we spoke about after the Wallin fight, where that seemingly, had that those questions been asked after some of his previous fights or a 10-round decision or whatever, people would look at that and go, well, he's still why is he worried about what Barry thinks? He's still to all of this stuff. But now he's kind of after the Wallin fight. I think it's certainly on this show we've sort of accepted the fact that maybe you need somebody. A trainer, whether it's Ben Davison and Lee Wiley, who actually goes, and talks them through, okay, this is why it was right, this is why it wasn't right, rather than, just be the old AJ, man.
I don't think he don't care what nobody says. I don't think that. I mean, he has an issue with everything.
No, it means like he wants the information, he wants the knowledge.
He wants to know. Yeah, he wants an assessment.
Which is great, but that's been sort of the sort of thing that's been almost sort of thrown back at him over the last 18 months of like, no, you're thinking too much. Just go in there and be the old AJ.
No, but I think that's a point as well. I think he was overthinking everything. I think it's too much stuff. Having all that knowledge, thirst for knowledge is fantastic. But you also in the box, in a ring, simple is better.
Yeah, I think he's a kind of person
simple is better,
who,
especially the heavyweight. Simple you can keep it, the better it is.
We've spoken about
he's a kind of person
getting the right information at the right time.
He likes evidence.
Yeah.
And I think why that setup's so good for him is because they will provide evidence. They watch a lot of film, they watch a lot of tape of fights, and Ben said to us on one of the streams during the week, he just said, look, he buys into that, and so do we. It's a big part of what we do, and why wouldn't you use that? Because it's actual physical evidence of what somebody you're fighting does and of what you do yourself. And he said there was one incident early on in their relationship where they told him something in the gym that he did that they said was going to be a problem, and they could tell that he didn't really like it, but they sent him the footage to back it up. He watched it overnight, came back the next day and said, you're right. And he needs that. He clearly needs that. And I don't think there's anything strange about that, because some trainers, some fighters and trainers, they have a relationship whereby it's, Froch kind of described it to me as being like Daniel LaRusso and Mr. Miyagi. Wax on, wax off. Why the fuck am I doing this? Just get on with it, was what he said. And they're happy with that. It's like, I trust you and I will do whatever you say. I will trust the process. Others don't. Others can't work like that. They like to ask questions, and it's not like they're not aggressively questioning you and suggesting you're wrong, but they'll say, okay, but why am I doing that? What's the point of it? And they need an answer. And I understand either one. If you've got that total trust in someone that you're just happy to do whatever it is that they'll tell you to do, but that has to be earned anyway, fine. If you're someone who wants to see some footage of this thing that you're supposed to be doing wrong, that's fine too. It's about the right fit, isn't it? And they're definitely the right fit, aren't they?
But that changes throughout your career. What you do early in your career, you're more obedient early in your career because you're green than you are when you're at his level. and his wealth. Let's not forget that as well. It's hard, when you're a multi-millionaire, people tell you what to do, and you think, fuck off.
How do you manage it, mate?
What's that?
How do you manage it? Tell you what to do.
I don't know. Well, that's why I come here, fucking pro bono, is that what it's called? Okay. But it's I would imagine it's just you just think, what the fuck am I listening to you for?
Yeah.
And
well, they say, don't they? Like, boxing's full of lovely cliches, but it is true. The silk pajamas and all that stuff is true. It's a real thing that rears its head kind of generationally, doesn't it?
But I think they just simplify it for him. Or they go, let us do the thinking. We'll tell you why. We'll tell you why we're going this way. And we'll show you the reasons why. We'll give you the evidence, which Lee Wiley, I think, does for whatever. And they get it all right. And they'll, you trust us? Look at that. Yeah, that works. I see that. I can see it. There you go. I got tangible evidence here. If I do that, that's what's going to fucking happen to me, because it's happened to me before, and that's the bad thing. Or if I do that, that's what happens to him through a result of what I do, and that's a good thing. So you show him, and you do it in the gym, and it works, and you show examples of other people doing it, how it can work, and then they go, yes. But ultimately, you'll do all that in the gym. If you don't have that bond, when it gets to the ring and they tell you to do it, you just go, fuck off. In your mind, I'm doing this because I don't trust you. And they still might not be there yet, because they haven't really had that fight yet, but they're going to need that. But it's on the right direction, I feel. But I think everything he did was simple and basic. And as a heavyweight, if you throw a 1-2 left hook correctly, neatly, as fast as you can, but keep safe. When one hand's up, one hand's touching the head. Always keep safe. Keep really simple, because of the power factor. That once you put the power in factor that into the heavyweight division, the basics all you need. It's all you need. I say, if you can do 1-2 left hook, you're world class. I've said that. Not to discredit the heavyweights. It fucking is, really, because we got to do so much other stuff. But I mean, we don't get hit like they get hit. A jab can kill you. That's a bad choice of words.
We know what you're saying. Yes.
But it fucking can as well, by the way. They're heavy hitters, isn't they? So you have to be aware, not wary. Thanks, mate. And and also every shot has to mean something, because it can be the shot that finishes them. So do the basics, because that's the best. The most direct route is the jab. The most direct route is the right hand. And luckily, Anthony Joshua has great form. He throws inside his body frame always, so he has to turn into the shots. Naturally gives him that ability to throw a hard shot with every punch. If he believes in himself, he steps in, and he's doing that now. And even though he was against a novice, he was a dangerous novice who proved he could compete against we all regard as the best heavyweight on the planet right now. Maybe not so now, but I think we still have to say that.
At the time, he was.
Even now, we still have to say it. You know what I mean? And he wiped the floor with him. I mean, literally wiped the floor with him. It was a few little signs of him getting caught, but even then, Joshua didn't give a shit about that. Really, he just took his time, didn't rush it, and every shot he threw was fantastic. And every shot that put him down or hurt him was delivered neatly, cleanly. And even he changed the angle of that right hand over the top to knock him spark out, to get the elbow involved, to get that torque of the punch, to make sure he punched him right through the ring.
It's one of the things that I wanted to kind of put to you, and we do have to move on because there's so much to talk about on that card. Enough, was Joshua's punching mechanics. Really, I spoke to a couple of people after, sort of mentioned it, punching down, punching through the target, getting that elbow up and punching over.
That shallow arc.
But yeah, really punching down.
To do that, you got to engage your legs, so he has to go down.
Yeah.
So you can do that because he's taller than the guy, and you can do that from this way, but you end up, if you're punching down like this, you're going to do it straight anyway, which is a great shot. You also just do it square, that one. You get a better twist of your hips. Like, I know about fucking power, but it to bend your legs means you get lower. Means you got to arc over the top. You've got to get that elbow. You've got to do that Golovkin chopped on. That'll force you to turn that arm and hit with those front two knuckles. One, for the start, that helps you'll break your arm, because all those bones go right up there, but you get that maximum impact.
Yeah.
Like that.
It's one of those ones you just watch it again and again and again, don't you? Because it kind of looks as simple as someone just steps in and absolutely mullers someone who's standing still, but it's that little dip, glide,
all of that punch mechanics.
But he knew he was going to do it when he was in that corner. He registered in his mind. Could he put his arm out like that? I tell you what, that's ringside. That's probably one of, not the most clinical and destructive one-punch knockouts I've seen ringside. It was awesome. Forget who it was against. It was, I mean, for a second, you're just going, what the what is that?
Yeah.
Like, it was that, wasn't it? It really
was.
I don't know if it translated on the TV the same way.
It did.
Absolutely.
The way that he went down. That's
so,
when you are switched off. Like, the way
it was so good. I don't think it was a noise, was there? I can't remember the noise. It was like, I can't remember the noise. It must have been that good.
It reminded me a little bit. He hit Kubrat Pulev with a similar shot with a right hand when Pulev had been down a couple of times and he got up and was essentially a sitting duck. And he did that again where he sort of walked over to him, no real thought for what was coming back, and just punched right through the target. Yeah. And then Pulev went poof.
And I liked his reaction as well. He just walked off.
It reminded me of like the Balotelli, a postman doesn't celebrate when he posts the mail. He's there to knock him out. And that's
I don't think Ngannou saw it. I know it's right in front of his face. You think he would see it. I think the first right hand he saw, because when he went south on the whistle, I think he saw that. He just couldn't react to it. I think that the tip of the legs, because he's not a boxer, not used to all those different movements. The tip of the legs threw him. Yeah,
he was already in trouble. He was in trouble after that second knockdown, and he got back to his feet, and he did enough for the referee to be absolutely fine in letting him continue. But he was in trouble. You could see he was in trouble, and it would have been registering with him vaguely somewhere what was coming, but it didn't. It just completely wiped him out. And afterwards in the press conference, somebody asked him about it, and he said, "Oh, I didn't feel a thing," and that's because he doesn't remember it. Yeah. I mean, that memory will already have been inserted into his brain after the event of what happened, like he remembered it, but he doesn't remember it.
That's right. Well
before we move on, obviously one of the big sort of talking points afterwards was Tyson Fury's fight with Francis Ngannou, and obviously subsequently Anthony Joshua's performance, and people are always going to compare and contrast performances. Barry, going to come to you first. Does this put Fury's performance in perspective? Is this, do we praise Anthony Joshua? Do we criticise Tyson Fury? It's an inevitable question to compare the two. How do we?
I think both. I think both is fair. I think we praise Ngannou for his performance, we criticise Fury for his performance, and we praise Joshua for his performance.
Everyone's a winner. Well, apart from Fury. Sorry.
I think that's all you can do, though, isn't it? Yeah. That was then. This is now.
I think so. And styles do make fights. Fury was very much saying on our broadcast that styles make fights. So just because you have to hit them, you do it to me. And then people were asking me, straight after, who wins now out of them two? And I think you have to judge, unless it's an obvious. The thing, because someone only fights once a year, it's hard to know if there is a clear decline in their abilities. I've said about Fury, his last stellar performance was February 2020, the Wilder second fight, and ever since then he hasn't looked great, because he hadn't needed to look great, maybe, but he hasn't looked great. And maybe that's the decline, that he had no motivation, and he just knows he just got to turn up and beat the guys who he's beat recently, like Dillian White passes sell by date, Chisora passes sell by date, and Ngannou never boxed before. So it's hard to judge, but I think if Fury's at his best and Joshua's at his best as he is now, then I'd still favour Fury. But we don't know where Fury is. I would that much. But if he can get to anyone at his best, then he's still good enough to beat Anthony Joshua. But and as always, though, even that fight, a caveat, a little asterisk attached, Joshua's always got ability to urge you and knock you out, because Fury gives you opportunities. In every fight he's in, he gives you opportunities. And so Joshua can win a fight. He always could win a fight, but you always had to make Fury a massive favourite. But now that being a huge favourite is starting to level up. Like in Usyk, I always thought he was a favourite against Usyk. Now that's like, whoa, that's a very, very close fight now, because again, he hasn't looked fantastic.
But if we get to Fury AJ, then it'll be because Fury's beaten Usyk, which will mean that he still is right up there.
Most likely have to beat him twice as well. Yeah. Obviously, a two-way rematch.
And whether he dominates or scrapes over the line, if he beats Usyk, then you
can't do that without still being absolutely top of your game.
Final question on that before we move on, Andy, to you first. Where next for Anthony Joshua? Let's assume, because we'll live in, I guess what we know, that Fury Usyk happens on May the 18th, and then it happens again in November or whatever. They box twice this year. So Fury and Usyk pushed to one side.
Fury looked good up close, by the way. He looked healthy. He looked well. He looked in shape. His skin looked good. That might sound like a slightly odd thing to say, but it's a good indicator of how someone's been living. Yeah. And the cut looked like it had healed already pretty well.
Didn't it just actually? Yeah, you almost forgot he had a cut.
Yeah, exactly. So what I think, he's going to want to fight again as soon as he can. I think you wait and see what happens on May the 18th, and if there's a result either way, as in not a draw or no contest, then the IBF are going to take their belt out, and then you fight Hrgovic for that IBF belt. I think that's what you do if you're Joshua.
Because actually, could you think about it? You want to stay active.
Yeah.
But who does he fight?
That's what I mean.
I think one thing that's come out of, and obviously we're going to talk about Joseph Parker shortly as well. now people surely can see it. Okay, Anthony Joshua's not, he's doing these, he's been very, very active and he's not been fighting for peanuts. It's always important to stress that. But he has been very active, and some of those fights haven't been, stellar top 5 names. And, the Dillian Whyte fight was obviously outside of his control with Helenius. But the activity levels and being able to produce, and people can say about Ngannou, and people can even say about Wallen. One of the things I said sort of the day after the fight, you can see in him, forget the other guy, you can see him being more confident, being more, okay, actually, no, activity. I'm active. Exactly.
Joseph Parker.
So even if it's not, I think I agree with you, Andy. I think it'd be for a world title.
Then last year have been Parker and Joshua.
And look at what they've done.
Look at the pair of them.
But if it's not the world title next, if it's not the IBF becomes vacant, or whatever happens with Fury Usyk, there's a conclusive winner one way and the other side don't want it for whatever reason or whatever, then he just needs to box, is kind of how I would look at it. And surely the evidence is there now, not only for him but also Parker.
But not too much below his level, like
I think
because he has to stay sharp for himself. Not blasting people out for him now is what I mean. Just giving an opponent so he looks good and feels good.
And if you can find a fight that's got a bit of a hook or an angle for him, like Ruiz, like a third fight against Ruiz.
Dillian Whyte's fighting this weekend in Ireland.
Dillian Whyte's back.
Can he box in the UK? We'll find out, I guess, down the line.
Relevant, then he can box in Saudi.
If you can, be able to box in Saudi.
That's where Joshua's boxing. No, I don't think he's boxing anywhere else. And I think if the main man in Saudi can, the control that he has, or seems that he has, then that rematch, if the first fight against Fury and Usyk is so conclusive,
this is what I'm thinking too,
then I'm sure he can just go, who's the rematch clause? Who signs it? Is he involved in that rematch clause? You know what I mean? It's his name. So the titles are irrelevant. Once we get the winner there, every title there is irrelevant. We have the number man, one. Yeah. So you all want to keep the belts, but that's impossible. So if you don't keep one, if you don't keep them all, why keep one, innit? So we got the guy who we know is going to be the winner. Who we know is the number one.
And we know how difficult it is to even maintain. I mean, obviously that is going to happen anywhere with the IBF, whether people like it or not. We've seen it with Jamal Charlo at 54. We've seen it with Josh Taylor at 40.
They don't need it, and more importantly, like if the fight's shit but we have a winner, we don't want to see it again. If it's a conclusive winner, we don't want to see it again. If it's a really close fight, we want to see it again. If it's a great fight, but when wins clear, we still want to see it again. Fucking hell, how many scenarios going to give you? And so, but I'll try. But I think, so with that case, you can force it. Can you just force Joshua into there for the next one before that? I mean, it looks like money's no object. Just go to, say Fury wins, and that's a fight we want because of the interest for the British fans, then you just see Usyk. I want... wait a little bit, I'll give you an extra 20 million just
and you get the winner.
And you get the winner. You can box on the bill, you can box whoever, you can box Sergevich.
If you're Usyk, that your worry would be maybe say that Fury would retire after fighting Joshua, particularly if he beats him, and then you wouldn't get the chance. But yeah, I feel like they will want to, if Fury beats Usyk, they will want to do Fury Joshua.
It seems as though that is very much the plan.
I
don't know how Team Usyk would be feeling about that, because after the fight at the weekend, it was very Fury Joshua. I've never seen a rival promoter, which I think you could still have Eddie Hearn with regards to Tyson Fury as that rival promoter. I know it's all kumbaya and whatever going, just need Tyson Fury to beat Usyk. It's a very strange sort of cheerleading. I know everyone wants the big pot of gold and wants the big fight.
That's all it is, mate. It's just it's the biggest fight, and I think as well.
But there is a quite sizable obstacle in the way of that, and he can do a bit of boxing as well.
But then even see,
he can do a little.
If Usyk wins, which which is feasible, Usyk wins, the same scenario, the same rules go with Fury. You just wait. You have to wait now, and we're going to do this instead. Contracts.
It was not that long ago. I kind of felt like there wasn't really any point seeing Joshua fight Usyk again, but now, like I'd be very interested in
Are we
Joshua
getting a bit
Usyk
ahead of ourselves with that? Just me playing devil's advocate, because I think it's
well ahead.
But I mean, we had obviously Eddie's job is to back his man and to scream from the rooftops about what a great fighter he is. It's the job of any promoter. Obviously, after the fight, said he was the best heavyweight in the world, the baddest man on the planet, all of that stuff. But Alexander Usyk does hold 2 pretty convincing wins over Anthony Joshua. Yeah. Any interest in seeing that fight again?
No, I do, because I think the circumstances are different. They're always different. But you look at that first fight at Spurs, and Rob McCracken was still leading the corner, but there were other voices in there as well. And then for the rematch, Rob had gone, and Angel was still there, and Robert Garcia had been brought in. And I thought he was much better in the second one than he was in the first one. I thought in the first one that clarity wasn't there. There wasn't any really. The approach seemed to be all wrong and kind of obviously all wrong. Whereas now, things are different.
I don't think he was. I think he was better. And I understand what people. And I'm probably wrong more than anyone. I don't think it was massively better. I think it was too similar. He tried to box him twice. I don't like. It's like you think, oh, he's a good boxer. I'm boxing a good boxer here, and I'm really master technician. So I got to get technically better. Maybe if you can, but I mean you can't. You're not going to beat him at his own game, You're not going to beat him in his own game. You're not going to outbox a guy who can outbox you, and try and get better in a short period of time. But he's technically much better than you. You've got to try a different way. He didn't. I remember we were all sat together, and I thought the first fight Joshua was going to win.
So
because I thought the way he used blocks and counters as a cruiserweight, which is brilliant. He won't have that same luxury as a heavyweight. And I thought Joshua would try and put that physical presence and weight and size in him and push him back with the jab. But he never. He went on his toes and tried to box him, so I understood why, but it was never going to work. And I think the second fight was quite similar, but he's a little bit more assertive. But I still thought it was never. It was a failed.
He didn't look like he was going to win.
A failed game plan. They both were failed game plans.
Yeah, it was closer, but it was a.
There was a close fight. The first one, you don't get a second chance of a game. Once you settle game plan, you can go back and then go, actually, just for you get doing, actually, scrap that, I changed my mind, fuck shit, that's not going to work. Do this, and this. You're set to it, yeah. But I think game plans are stupid. Not stupid. That's stupid. Stupid to say they're stupid. I mean, boxing is such a fluid sport that a game plan should be very, very loose, because anything can happen. He reacts to one thing, the fighter reacts to one thing that you do, and it unravels, the whole game plan unravels.
Yeah.
And the prime example of that, Joe Gallagher's a fantastic trainer. The prime example of that is Scott Quidd versus Carl Frampton, about making Carl work hard and he'll tire, and he never. And you just threw away loads of rounds, and you're never going to catch the fight back unless you knock him out. You're not going to knock him out, so it means you're never going to win the fight. You're stuck in a rut there, and I think you have to be very fluid and loose. So sometimes, back in my day, you had no videos and things of people fighting, because I'm so fucking old. But it helped you, because you had to just think on your feet. Like as an amateur, you have to think on your feet. You had no video, you have to just think on your feet, and you learn that way. Now it's better if you can see somebody, you can work on certain things they do, but the actual plan of building it up round by round, very rarely things go to plan anyway. You just don't know what's going to happen.
It's always seemed to me that really all a game plan can be is, okay, we've identified these things, or this one thing that we think if we drill this, so that if that circumstance appears in the fight, a flaw they've got, that this could work, we could have some success with this.
Exactly.
But that's really all it can be.
That's what I did with Freitas. He threw a big right hand, he committed to it, but if he don't hit you, because of the sheer weight he throws into it, and I dropped it in the left hook, because he overthrew it, and I took a half a step back and he missed, and I caught it.
But this idea that in round 1 to 3 we'll do this, and then we'll progress to round 4 and 5 and we'll do this, that's cloud cuckoo land.
Particularly when you're in with a guy who is so fluid.
You're winging it. Yeah. You're winging it, aren't you? Elite level sport, people probably don't like to think it because they've got all these resources and you can plan and you've got analysts and you've got all these kinds of things. But ultimately, you're winging it. And you have to be, able to.
One of the things I always say to people when it comes to like preparation for like shows, where we don't prepare at all for this. Still won the award, but anyway,
we keep it pure.
Keep it pure. But with regards to
this
like
is pure bullshit.
Well, we've all done it in a sense of like
I have a script on it.
We've all done, like today, for example. We haven't gone, okay, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about that. We've covered it from whatever angles in our head, and then you go there because you're secure in the knowledge that you've covered all of the angles, and then whatever comes up you can answer. And it's similar in a sense of like you've planned for this eventuality and that
feel what's going on, haven't you?
Yeah, and then like, okay, well, I could go, well, I'm going to ask Barry this question, and provided he doesn't talk about prostitutes and roller coasters, we'll talk about this. Like, it just doesn't, do you know what I mean? Like there's no form to it. I keep looking at this, there's never anything on this. I always say to people there's nothing on it. I just
like people do the news on the telly.
Yeah, anyway.
No, you mentioned it, working with me must be a fucking nightmare.
Anyway,
I'm going to say this. What's he going to say?
We've got to move on because we've got a lot to get through, and we're going to stay with the heavyweight division. And if Anthony Joshua is the form man in the heavyweight division, he's probably got to fight a certain Joseph Parker for that mantle, because 5 wins in the past 14 months, I think it is, for Joseph Parker, Andy. And it's another big one against another big hitter in Zhang. What a performance from Joseph Parker.
It was, and particularly because at the end of it, I felt like he'd won quite clearly, and to do that having been knocked down twice that's pretty unusual. It was another really good performance, and the key part of it was the 3 minutes between mid-third round and mid-fourth round, because he got put down in towards the end of the third round. And although he wasn't hurt, you could see on his face, I felt just a flicker of, okay. I saw this loose, straight left hand, but it still put me down hard, straight onto his backside.
He was having a good round to that point.
And he was having a good round to that point. And then he got pinned on the ropes and caught with a left uppercut right hand at the end of the round. And they'd done some damage. You could see that it had registered, that it had hurt him. And the first half of the fourth round, Zhang looked good again, but he dug in Parker and maybe won that fourth round. By the end, he was on top, and he just didn't allow that momentum that Zhang had built to go any further, because he knew that he couldn't allow that to happen. And he was just really good again. He was really, really good. And people can always look at it from two sides, obviously, and you should. But Zhang is this guy who frustrates because you feel like he should be able to do more and push an advantage home, and he was just never able to do it. And you have to credit Parker for that, because if Zhang being 21 stone and 6'6" and these hands like anvils, if he was able to box every minute of every round, he'd be the best fighter the world has ever seen.
He would, yes.
So suggesting that that's a possibility for him, isn't that realistic given the size that he is? But Parker is, I mean, the activity again is absolutely key. He's with somebody in Andy Lee who he obviously trusts, and they've got a great relationship. And it was just a really good performance, and he's going to be very difficult for anyone.
Yeah, how good is that Joshua fight? The Joshua win look now.
Yeah,
and it man all of a sudden he's when he beat Jack Massey, I just thought that's his time's done now at the top.
Yeah, so did I.
He beat Jack Massey, a cruiserweight, like it was a good domestic cruiserweight. I'm not slagging him off, but Joe Parker's supposed to be a world champion heavyweight. Maybe he hasn't got to his prime yet. He should be doing a better job, and he just looked lackluster. And I thought, I'm not sure whether he just got that fire in his belly. He's not shot warm. I just don't know whether he got it anymore.
He's on the back of that hard fight against Joe Joyce as well.
Just
a couple of months,
maybe just
3-4
think,
months
and that's probably what it was. But you just think, I just don't have the same desire as I used to, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. He retires, and he had a good career, he had a fantastic career, plenty of money, and he was a world champion. It's amazing. But he's gone. I bet against him. I told him, I said, listen, twice you proved me wrong. I went and see him in the changing room as well after the fight. He's thanking other people. He's such a lovely guy, man. Ridiculously lovely guy. Just thanking everyone else. He's giving everyone else like this crane chat. And I said, listen, like, it's great what all the guys doing in the shape. It's all you. It's you. It's no one else. It's you. Andy did a great job and he helped you out. The other guys, they've all helped you out and they all deserve their credit, and they do. Well done. Brilliant. But they're not getting in fighting. You are. And they know that. Certainly Andy knows that. It's all about you. You did that. Again, another fight you have to be brave in. Because every time Zhang hit him, you could feel he felt it. Guaranteed he felt it. And Zhang, again with Zhang, Zhang's technically quite good, I think. Like from the waist up. You know what I mean? If you put him on roller skates, he beats everyone. But like, and he waits, and he can, as you come in, he can time you come in with hooks or southpaw hooks really well. That's crazy power, touch you power. Don't he? Just tap you, and you fucking and threw it 6 inches and knocked him over. And if he could sustain an attack, I thought he turned the corner with the Joyce fights, even though they didn't go very long. He looked like he would do more work in the round. I don't know if his engine's always got to be shit because he's too heavy.
It's always been suspect, hasn't it? We spoke about it beforehand with the Jerry Forrest fight, and obviously the Philip Hergovich fight was another.
Close that Hergovich fight. I don't know, everyone's because he got robbed, and
I thought he won just from the knockdown. I had 6 rounds apiece.
But then he did 20 seconds of work in every round.
Exactly.
But against Joyce, he never did 20 seconds of work. He did 40 seconds of work. I think, and that was, I thought, well, if he boxes like that, as good, I thought Parker would always be winning rounds or winning the round at the time when he gets caught. But ultimately, Parker can be hit. That's the truth. He takes a good shot, but he can be hit and he can be hurt. And if Joyce can hit, if Zhang can hit you, or Zhang, I had to say in the broadcast, I was told to say Zhang, not Zhang. But if Zhang can hit you, then you put to sleep. But Parker's built from different stuff. He's a brave fighter.
The concentration levels and the bravery that he showed in that fight, because at the end of that third round that you mentioned there, Andy, in the start of the fourth, and obviously the 8th round as well, that was
he lost the first 2 rounds, I thought, as well.
I gave him the second round, and I thought he was on the way to.
I think it was the first 2 rounds was
very good. I thought he was winning the third round until that left hand came out just nice and sharp, and before he knew it, he was on the deck. And I think that was one of those knockdowns where he wasn't particularly hurt, but it was more like, oh shit, I'm down here, and then he got up thinking, fuck. Jesus, this isn't like...
I've got to be really careful.
Yeah, because
here.
this can just change. And whether or not he got comfortable in that moment or not, and then the left hand just came out.
Yeah.
And,
do you know what's good for him, though? He's been there before.
That's it.
And so and he knows he can get over the line. Against a guy who's probably more dangerous than anyone else he's fought. Wilder should have been more dangerous on paper, but he wasn't that night. And that's down to Parker as well, I think.
But I think in the build-up to certainly the Wilder fight and this fight, I think I picked him to win both fights. But the big kind of thought in the back of my mind was that we've seen Parker drift in fights, and we've seen him have those momentary lacks of concentration or go for a walk, and like the second Chisora fight, he could have stopped him 5, 6, 7 times. The fight drifted and he didn't quite stay on it, and I know that's something that even predating his...
And he gave himself a reasonable chance of losing the first one for the same reason.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's going from opening bell to final bell. He did that against Deontay Wilder, but then obviously inevitably, and even us, it's our job to pick the bones out of it afterwards. While you're always, you praise the guy who wins, the fact that it's a big upset, you look at, okay, well, Wilder, he hadn't been active, he hadn't done this, and you start looking at things differently. Now, people are going to do it with Zhang, and Zhang was 291 and he was this and that. But him getting those 12 rounds of pure concentration in against Wilder, and then going into this fight and showing again 12 rounds of concentration against a guy who obviously can hurt you, who's dropped you twice, like he was busted up as well. Like at the end of those third round, the nose went, and you could just like, those are the moments where if you're not 100% secure in what you're doing, and you believe and you trust the training, you trust the process, and you're going to stay engaged with it, then you lose those fights.
Fitness. You've got to keep your concentration for 12 rounds. You have to be supremely fit. That you have to,
because it drains you, doesn't it? The mental,
you start to think about, I'm tired, and then you don't think, and then you're not concentrating on everything. You have to concentrate on every aspect of the game. What happens to you, what he's doing, what might happen. That's what you have to do. You don't. It's not a conscious thought, but you're aware of it all. But fitness helps you be sharper at that. But also experience, and I think he's coming to his prime. Ironically, I think he's at his prime now, because I just think
he's early 30s, isn't he?
Yeah,
that's kind of for heavyweight. That's often.
There's an Ali
quote. You can see it in him, can you?
He
fights with a different vigor, don't he, that he had before.
Yeah, there's that Ali quote before he boxes Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle. He says, "I'm experienced now. I've been knocked down, lost, my jaw's been broke. I've done all this. Like, I'm bad. Like, he's a proper professional now.
Yeah.
I'm better than the undeveloped kid who ran away from Sonny Liston." And you kind of look at Parker in the early stages of his career, and you look at who he is now.
Yeah, more flighty then, wasn't he?
Yeah. But all of those things that he's learned from the mistakes. Was he a bit too heavy in the Joe Joyce fight? He had issues going into that, but it changed, and he's sort of changed his approach at different stages of his career. And I agree with you. I think he is now, with all of that experience, at his best.
Because he's kept high energy, but he's in a better position every time he throws a punch. Every time he's retreating or attacking, he seems more set in his feet. Which means, so he's obviously the bigger fellas, they can't do what little guys can do, because they carry him on loads of weight, don't they? So he knows his game. He knows the game now. He's a seasoned pro who's still in his prime. So he's like, all of a sudden now he's a danger. I think the fact that he hits hard, but that might be a little bit different. Where I think he doesn't have that yet, or maybe he does now. That instinct to want to really tear through you. I think, and that helps for that. I never had it. It holds you back. But I think in that division, it really holds you back.
But the two kind of things that we've always looked at, certainly I've always looked at with Parker, is that, like, I remember when the Dillian White fight, Kevin Barry said afterwards that you lost to a junkyard dog. He just out-dogged you. And that was always something that you looked at with Joseph Parker, as when the going gets tough, can you really dig in? Can you do that? But the other thing is the concentration and keeping concentrated throughout that time.
Happen, not with it.
No.
That's it. And like he knows now, he's experienced, he's got all of those, he's ticked all of those boxes. And I know he won't thank us for saying it, because he's that type of character, but what a job Andy Lee's done with him. He's done a fantastic job with Joseph Parker. Like, taking those fights, we all looked at the Wilder fight and thought, oh, Jesus Christ, like that's and then when he beat Deontay Wilder, he decided to go in there and he wants to box Zhang next. And everyone went, okay, well, you beat Wilder, but Wilder was inactive, he was never any good anyway, all of that stuff. But Zhang, look what Zhang did to Joe Joyce, look at...
But Joe's got to do it, though. He's got to do it.
For sure, yeah. Always is, yeah.
He's got all the things they ask him to do stuff that, by right, you shouldn't ask anyone to fucking do. Put the pressure on Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Don't worry about the knockout.
Make Zhang work hard. Okay, yeah, fucking make him work hard.
Zhang's kind of puzzling, though, isn't he? Because it wasn't
he
like...
He won, didn't he, by the way?
Yeah, apparently afterwards he thought he won. I mean, in the ring he gave
Zhang
an honest
thought
reaction.
He won.
In the ring he seemed to give an
yeah.
honest reaction. And I even saw something on social media where he basically said the better man won. But as we've talked about many times, I think a few hours after the event, and he realises that doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it became a robbery. But it wasn't like he was completely knackered at the end and he poured everything out, was it? And they did tell him before the start of the final round, basically, that you probably need a knockout. And he didn't really do a lot in that final round. So I don't know if you're training him. It's probably not that easy a job. In a way, it is, because he can hit really hard and he's technically good and he's got them and he knows what to do. But at the same time, maybe in his head, when he knocked him down the second time, he maybe just thought, okay, he'll unravel now. He didn't earlier. It wasn't quite the right time, but I've knocked him down for the second time. This is it now. Because he didn't really put his foot on the floor, did he? He
did nothing for the last 4 rounds of the fight. Like, really didn't.
I said that in commentary. Like, when he knocked him down and didn't jump all over him, I said, that's the arrogance of a puncher, that is. Just that pure arrogance that I know I can hurt you, so just wait my time. And it's sort of clever, because you can't afford to do that, but you've got to force him into an opportunity so you can hit him again. There's no urgency in his work, and if you don't train that way, you've got to make him work out. It looks like, I don't know, but it looks like he controls his training camp. So he does what he wants to fucking do. That's the worst place to be. We see with so many great fighters, once they earn loads of men, when they become super famous, they go from trainer to trainer. No, he hasn't done that, but they go from trainer to trainer because, like, they're the boss in the gym. You can't be like Anthony Joshua can't be the boss in his gym. Ben Davison is. John Davison as well sometimes. but Ben Davison is the boss. You have to be. It has to be the hierarchy in the gym. It doesn't work otherwise. I mean, if it can work, you're a special athlete. Be able to push yourself consistently, constantly. When you start again the silk pajamas scenario and just being famous and fucking don't shout at me. Like, I argue with my dad all the time. Anyone who trains with their father, you argue with your dad. It's easier sometimes when it's your parent, because you can't tell them to fuck off because your dad, and he'll tell you to go and stick it up your ass. And there's lots of swearing today.
That's right.
But what I mean is because your family, you'll mend. If you say that to your trainer, remember how close you are. No, my trainer tells me, "Oh, go fucking asshole, fuck off," and walks out. I don't ever train with him again. Yeah. You know what I mean? So you have to do what you're told. You don't get that situation where you're having that massive conflict. But he looks like he does what he wants, because, again, I don't think he can up the pace.
No, he's got no gears, has he?
No, he boxes like a man who has to just be patient.
He's got no gears. Every time I've seen him fight, I've never seen him kind of really click through the gears in any way, shape or form. He hurts someone and knocks him down, or he knocks him out. And against Joyce, he just kept hitting him with that left hand in the first fight, which was the percentage thing to do because he couldn't miss with it. And eventually the fight gets stopped. And then he knocked him out in the second fight. Hrgovic, again, like, he should have won that fight. The fact that he didn't get the decision was his own fault.
Yeah,
because
I think so.
He didn't push it. And then on Friday, the closing stages of that fight, and the corner, as we know, they did tell him. They might have been telling him, because you don't go into the same corner between every round and all of that. They may have been telling him for a while, look, you need to do something. And he just didn't do it. And you do have to credit Parker, of course. But that's an area where that was on him, the fact that he didn't just empty the tank.
I thought as well, after dropping him in the third round.
It might not have worked, but he should have done it.
But after dropping him in the third round and seeing Parker come back, I thought he won the fourth round as well, and sort of build back into the fight. You've already been given a warning there where you've hurt him and he's recovered. You've allowed him back into the fight. He's winning rounds. The eighth round, you drop him. The shot that dropped him, while didn't look as kind of impressive as the straight left hand, they're the ones that do you. Top of the head, side of the head.
It wasn't the back of the head.
Yeah, but he ducked down, didn't he, in the shot?
I was praised it. We did the replay, praised it. I mean, but actually, even in the back of the head is illegal.
but the way that he's rolled under and it's been hit on the back, they're the ones that you could see, like Parker had got up and he sort of didn't know what had hit him, and that's, you've already had a warning. You've already forget the Hrgovic fight.
He's not just going to cooperate and go quietly into the night.
He's shown you already 3 rounds ago he's not going to do that.
But there's no point in telling a guy who you know can, because the way he trains, because you're fucking training him, you've got to get a knockout now, because you know he's not going to rush his work. You've got to be saying every round, just do a little bit more, no lows. You've got to be, because you don't train that way, you know what you got with your product.
15, like you said, like you did 20 to 45 seconds rather than 20. That's what you've got to be trying to squeeze out of him, isn't it?
As we did against Joyce, I thought,
because that's twice as much output, basically.
But you know what? Even the Zhang that we had, who does 20 seconds of work, when he does it, it's quality. Because even that Zhang, being in the ring with that Zhang, take some ball. The way Parker was high energy throughout, he really was. And it's always a risk there, you're going to get clipped. And with him getting clipped is enough to put you to sleep. So like that, and that's why I thought ultimately, like I thought normally Parker at some stage is going to get clipped and not be able to get up, or get clipped, and then he's going to get clipped in another round, in the same round. He never got clipped twice in the same round, ironically.
Closest was that third round, wasn't it? And he just about managed. If that's another 30 seconds, you don't know.
He could have been in trouble then.
But even now, learning out just all that experience, just to keep rolling, dipping, twisting your body, anything you can do. Hold on when he tried to hold on to Zhang from getting your arms around him, but it took a lot of courage and experience and again, all that, we say it all the time, it's so important, that panic. There was no panic in him, even under pressure.
Yeah.
Because he's been in that shithole dark place that no one wants to go. And he knew there's a way out. If you just don't look for it, it'll present itself. You just got to be safe and aware of what your surroundings. Just try. And he was fantastic, like absolute fantastic. And you know, if I'm ever going to be wrong with my predictions, on my prediction league, I know when fucking that told me I was going to be in. Then
download now.
By the way, download now. But I'd probably picture me like this. Even the zone are using pictures of me like this now. They're all like selfies. Everyone else got a professional picture. But I've lost my way. But either way, it's like unbelievable. It takes some real courage. The way he boxes through all that, like he's an absolute machine. Absolute machine. If I could be wrong, I'm glad I was wrong for his fight. Of all the fights, I'm glad I was wrong with him. He is just the loveliest soul. Yeah, Joe, I love you, Joe.
Before we move on, let's ignore the Zhang rematch clause. That's in there.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, they mentioned it a week or so before.
Parker's happy with it, by the way.
I mean, if you're Parker and you look at that, I mean, all of the things that Zhang could have done. I mean, if you're Parker, you say, I took 2 good shots in the third round and the 8th round.
And also, if you look
do you think it'd be another 6 months down the line?
He took more than 2 shots, though.
Yeah. No, sure. But
I mean, that hurt
from his perspective, he'd have been like.
But also, in terms of the state of the division and what could you really do in the immediate future, it's good to have that rematch because you'll be confident you can win. It's more money.
Could also be for a full title, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that could have ended up being a world title fight, couldn't it, really, Friday.
We were saying on your broadcast as well.
Yeah, the WBO have got form. You know, they'll promote someone, won't they, basically, and you'll become champion and then you'll defend it. But off the back of those 2 wins, you're thinking to yourself, right, I want to fight Joshua, I want to fight Fury, I want to fight Usyk. You know, their futures short-term are determined. So, and you don't want to sit around doing nothing for 9 months.
No,
You'll probably want to sit around and do not very much for 3 months, and then get back into training maybe because he's had a heavy schedule. Yeah. But to know that actually, let's just do that rematch because it keeps you busy, and it'll still put the fear into you because you know that
he's a dangerous man.
Yeah, and also I think he's coming to his prime. If he is coming to his prime, and I think have a rest for me, I would sit there and do the June one 2 weeks later, or even miss that out. But you know, Saudi every other week, you know. But I mean, like, let them all beat each other up. You got time. You're the one who got the time. Let them. There's others coming up, and they might be a problem. Yeah. But you're boxing all the ones coming up. They're still at your level. They're still green. You're super experienced, and you're better than you've ever been. All the ones above you batter each other, and they're up at the end of their career. Let them do their bits.
Let them punch holes at each other.
Keep busy with quality opposition, and then if you box with Victor against Jared Anderson, you get him before you might get him before he's ready, maybe, or whatever it is, or Hergovich. You haven't really been tested like you could test him, or you get a shot worn. Fury, Joshua, Usyk, all of a sudden, they're big ass. All those fights are big ass for all of them. But I mean, he might be. Ironically, Joseph Parker might be in the best position.
It could be the last one
for anyone, for any boxer around at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Big
Joseph Parker. He's my new Shane McGuigan.
Joseph Parker's my new Joseph Parker. That's 2 fights in a row that Joseph Parker's looked after me well. But anyway, one of the things that I sort of saw on Twitter on the next day was sort of like Joshua and Parker, both in their own way, were sort of like fast track to a world heavyweight title. Remember when Parker was just coming through in New Zealand? Yeah. Boxed up Franz Berta, he boxed Carlos Takam, obviously he had the Dimitrenko, and then he had the Andy Ruiz.
He had good wins, actually, I thought.
Yeah, but it was very
orchestrated. Yeah.
Again, it was similar to Joshua there. They're good wins, but because Parker was such a huge star down there, he got the right building to get to that point. But were they ready for it then? Was Joshua ready to be world champion when he was world champion? Was Parker ready to be world champion? They missed out on those developmental fights.
Yeah, no, their situations were really, really similar, weren't they?
And they've now come full circle, and they've got that experience. Joshua's been stopped. He's been, again, they are leaving, being dropped a couple of times, jaw's been broke, all of that. They're bad now. They're fully fledged, proper professionals who are not 37, 38, 39 years of age, but they have the experience of that.
I fucking love boxing.
It is great, isn't it? Just because it throws up all of these.
It is brilliant.
It throws up all of these predicaments and questions that we hadn't even thought about before Friday, and then after Friday, they're obvious questions to ask, which we didn't know. But anyway, before we move on to talk about the rest of the card, one fight. Let's ignore rematch clauses all over the place. Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker 2. Talk to me.
I think Joshua still.
I would favour him, I think, but it's tough.
Fight, isn't it?
It's tough
because Parker does more work now than he did then. Doesn't try and box him. I mean, he tries to box him, but he doesn't try and stay on the outside.
He's not on the skates like he was in the first fight.
He tries to put pressure on Joshua.
I like that fight.
It's a good fight.
It's the two form guys in the division. I cannot see it happening because I think they'll have obviously Joshua could go the IBF route, and I think but one thing to
this Turkey out of shape. He might just go. That's the fight I won. So let's make it happen. They go, oh, it cost you. Oh, okay. You know what I mean?
It's true, yeah.
That's the fight that's going to happen. You know what I mean?
And that's why, like, when we're talking about all of these potentials, there is that enormous caveat.
Actually, think about it. I mean,
he might just come in and go, actually, no, this is.
If Turkey al-Sheikh in his head's thinking, listen, it's going to be 2 Fury Usyks in a row. I know we kind of feel like, or I do, that he would just want Fury Joshua if Fury won, but. If he's thinking to himself, no, we've done that deal and it's a 2-fight deal and it's going to be 2 fights. And while they're having those 2 fights, let's have another kind of... They're not semi-finals because Fury Usyk, whoever wins that, is the number 1. But that's the final eliminator for who fights the winner of that has now got to be Joshua Parker on recent performances. Yeah. That adds up, doesn't it?
Yeah. And everyone would be more than happy to see that. And if Joshua and Parker happened, you'd think that the loser of that fight, considering everything they've done over the last 18 months or so,
and you can't even move,
goes into another fight. Boxes and Ngannou. You know, why not?
I know from our perspective, like you just think, because there was like 4 top of the bills the other night. You just think more, and you just go, that could be 5 fights. That's 5 shows we could earn money from.
Yeah.
But like they're so frequent now because like literally we're going to be out there in May. And I haven't been booked for it yet, but I'm literally have a week off and back out there for another week in June. Do you know what I mean? It's like
crazy
it's
time.
Mad stuff. It is. It's mad.
But let's talk about some of those other main events from the weekend, namely Ray Vargas versus Nick Ball. Ray Vargas, Barry, in many people's eyes, somewhat fortunate to retain his WBC featherweight title by split draw, not majority draw.
It was I picked Ball. And I'm saying this all week. I'm going against how I usually try and think who I was going to win a fight. I couldn't think of an elegant word to put that. But it's because I usually go with common sense. Or what I think is my common sense, which is probably madness. But so everything pointed to Vargas dominating that fight. All the pedigree. He's used to. He's a boxer. He's not a gung ho guy who could, and also he fires back under pressure, which Nick Ball's not used to, by the way. And so I just thought. Everything points to him winning. I said a feeling Nick Ball would win, so I picked Nick Ball to win. And I got it wrong. But I just think...
Were you wrong, though? I mean, okay.
I don't think I was wrong. I would say this, though. It was a close fight, because I didn't give Nick Ball... The first 6 rounds, I give all to Vargas. Same. All of them. Yeah. The 6 could have been like that, but also the 10th could have gone the other way, I feel. But if the last 6... So it's 6 rounds each, but there's 2 knockdowns there. So I thought... And looking back, I think it was an easy fight to score, relatively easy fight to score, but there was 2 knockdowns that made a difference. So it's 14-12 my card, and I think that was probably the right assessment. Now you think 14-12, okay, but that's only 1 round is 13-13, but I didn't see where that round could have gone, because even if I say that, I just contradict myself. You give the 10th to Vargas, and then that makes it 13-13. But if you don't give the 10th...
There's a couple...
But I thought there was a round in the first half.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's 1 or 2.
I gave Ball a round in the first half. I can't remember which one it was, but I remember it wasn't... it was earlier than that, and I remember... But I remember thinking at the end of that round, I'm happy to give him that round. Yeah. And then at the end, so I had 7-5, so 115, 111, but... I was doing it in my head though, rather than on paper.
Should have been using the boxing news.
But when I was thinking about it afterwards, I thought, okay, well, maybe that was one of those rounds where it was his best round of that first half, but he still didn't actually do quite enough to win it. And maybe I got there that way. So, okay, let's scrap that. And I've got 6-6. I couldn't give Vargas any more than 6.
Yeah.
I just couldn't.
No,
and that's why at the end I was happy to kind of say that, and we all were, me, Macklin, Dave Colwell, we were all happy to say that we felt like Nick Ball had won. Because we talked about this with Jonas Mayer. Like, I don't feel like it's necessarily the job, when you're commentating to declare a winner. You've got to be really sure, because you are invalidating the other person's win, and that's a big thing to do. So you have to be certain. And at the end, I was happy enough to just thinking about it. I just thought, I can't give Vargas any more than 6. I just can't. I don't see that. And there's 2 knockdowns, so Ball's won.
It's some turnaround though.
It was.
I tell you what, after 6 round though, I'm going, fuck me, this don't look good. I know from my own point of view, because you do worry what people, as much as you say you don't care, there's a bit of you think, fuck me, man, I'd give all 6 rounds to you.
Barry, at this point, we've made an arse out of ourselves so many times.
No, and he's from Liverpool, they're usually people who just don't really get to voice their opinion about stuff. I'm gonna get it now. I'm gonna be listening but no, because they're passionate, isn't it? That's fine about that. But I mean, it's just so I think, no, this don't look good. I haven't given him a round, But then the second half of the fight, he just totally dominated. It was just madness, and it's like something clicked in his head. Like, what am I doing?
He hit him with that overhand right in the 7th, and everything changed, didn't it?
What am I doing?
Once, because Vargas got a good set of whiskers on him, and he is.
But I don't think he ever totally recovered from that.
No, and he also he does have a tendency to get drawn in, Vargas, to a fight. He did against Mark Magsayo, but he was able to win. He won a couple of rounds in the second half of the Magsayo fight that basically secured the fight for him. But he did get dropped in that fight and he got hurt.
I tell you what, he hit Ball with some wicked body shots.
The right hook to the body was perfect. When you consider how low he must have had to.
There was only one time I seen Ball. There was one shot that Ball, you could feel Ball felt that, but apart from that, he just took it. I think Vargas thought, God, I've done all the groundwork from the first round up to round 9 to slow your legs down, and then you're busier now than you were in round 1. What the fuck's going on?
There's that lovely shot Ball that he throws. He sort of leads with the right hand just to get there, and then he shifts his feet and then wings the left hook over from the southpaw stance. It's a serious shot. Reminds me of the shot that Dimitri Pirog, I know it was the right hand, but the shifting of the feet on the way in when he knocked out Danny Jacobs, and he does that so well, and that sort of negates his obvious height and reach advantage. He gets there with the right hand to shift his feet, and then
when you're always shorter than your opponent, and often considerably. That's years and years and years of fine tuning.
We spoke about it before, when he's hitting the heavy bag, he's hitting it like that because that's how.
So almost being 5'6" or 5'10" almost makes no difference. He did struggle with the distance early in the fight because he jumps in and Vargas is much taller and also sits a little bit on that back leg, so it makes himself a little bit of a longer target, theoretically taller to hit, if you like. So he makes it hard, and he worked the jab well from the hip as well, and it was all. Ball was struggling to find his range early on, for sure. But what he doesn't do, they never feel sorry for themselves, never chops kind of work, and his energy. And I always felt that, but that's why I fancy him in a fight. I thought when he gets close to the target, those quick feet moving round, Vargas I don't know if you've experienced that, because he's used to boxing. That people who should do the right thing when they get close, sit down on their shots, make sure they get plenty of purchase, and be calm and safe when you're close to the target. But Ball has the ability to do that. Ball takes a great shot, and he's physically tough, strong as well. All that stuff helps with his makeup, because he had to take some good shots off Vargas. You can bang. He's not a KO artist, but I think he's a sharp.
Solid enough.
Those
shots he's sinking those body shots
in.
That right hook to the body was.
They should have done their job. He did the right thing. It didn't work because Ball is physically tough. He probably never blinked half the time you get those body shots.
And every time he got the opportunity to show him on the inside his physical strength, he took it. And whether you like it or not, it's a fight. And when you're on the inside and you've got the ability to throw somebody to the floor or show them how strong you are, you got to use it.
No, I was a fan of that in the first half. He wasn't having a lot of joy, and he just kind of just chucked him on the ground, basically, didn't he? Just to show him, listen, you get down there. I might not have punched you down there, but you're still down there.
But the one knockdown, was it the second knockdown?
The first knockdown, which is what I wanted to come on to. Your thoughts on the first knockdown?
Well, what he's thrown Vargas around, and then as they've released, you've caught Vargas with a shot. So you could sort of say he's thrown him off balance and hit him, so that shouldn't be a knockdown, really. But it was because Vargas is holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
And he's throwing him because he's holding on for dear life.
Yeah.
Like, the referee wasn't strong enough.
The referee, I was about to say, the referee has to call stop boxing.
No, that's what I thought. Because
Vargas grabbed him, held him. I understand that's part of the game, but the smaller guy, you got to smother him. But I mean, he constantly held him. But Ball had to overreact to make it obvious to the referee. Look at fucking he's grabbing hold of me.
Yeah.
So but he threw him and then caught him. And I thought it was fair enough because you've been doing it all day. That's just one of those things. But if you break it, if you take that out and put it on his own, then you probably wouldn't give the knockdown. But it was a good shot.
But I thought it was okay.
Fine, yeah.
Matt and Dave, I don't think were keen. But but the way I looked at it was that was the rough and tumble of the fight because Vargas was trying to hold on to him, which is a foul.
Yeah.
And Ball wasn't having it, disengaged, and with the greatest strength managed to kind of throw him off and then hit him. I thought it was okay. But if he hadn't given it, I would have understood why he didn't give it.
I thought it was this may not make any sense, but I think with the context of what we've got here, I didn't think it should have been a knockdown, but with the sequence of events that led up to it, which the big one being the referee not calling stop boxing, then it is a knockdown. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't have been, but the sequence of events meant that it was.
Yeah. It was one that 50-50 could have gone either way. But it was, when you look at the cards, obviously there was a 116, 110, which was that was too wide for Nick Ball.
One of the cards gave Vargas like 3 of the last 4 rounds.
But Massimo Barravecchio had it 8-4 in rounds to Vargas.
Massimo.
114, 112.
Oh.
114, 112 Vargas. And I'm sorry, but that is a complete and utter shambles.
That's a mental card.
Well,
if you've given him the first 6, fine, because you two did. And I have no issue with it. But it means that you've given him 2 of the last 6 rounds. Please tell me which rounds they were.
Yeah, and I think we've sort of deciphered it from our chat here, where maybe one of the first 6 and maybe one of the last 6 were kind of maybe not swing rounds, but close rounds.
Yeah.
So it means you've given both of those to Vargas in that instance. Well, plus one other if you've done that.
Yeah, and that's just,
I don't see that. What next for Nick Ball? I mean, it's talk of a rematch. I can't see Vargas, being. I mean, he said afterwards,
more money.
He said afterwards, if they pay me 3 or maybe 4 times, I fucking hell, mate, I'm sure you're not doing this.
Ray Vargas doesn't want to fight Nick Ball again, not because he doesn't think he'll win, because it was close.
It was a mandatory as well.
But it's just because you just think, I've done this once. It was a really hard fight. He's a nightmare for me. No thanks.
But this is where rematches
being
should
Mexican,
happen,
the chances of the WBC kind of making him do it are not great, are they?
But they should. This is where rematches. That's a draw. So he should be forced to fight it again if it's a draw. That's where rematches should happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a draw, not when you have a clear winner, but they can earn more fucking money. That's good for the fighters involved. But it's no good for the sport or all the other people waiting their turn. That's always my issue with rematches. That's the only issue with it. But if there's a warrant a rematch and someone has to wait because it's a draw, I almost thought they were the guaranteed fucking rules anyway. If the fight's drawn for the title, you have to fight again because there's no conclusive winner. You rightly keep your belt.
Yeah, exactly. Because the way I always look at it is that at the start of a fight, whoever's champion, who's challenger, whilst that fight is on, the belt is now vacant. They're both fighting for it, and there's no result at the end.
Yeah.
So you could make. I know if you get a draw, then you haven't lost, so you do retain it. But in a way, you can make an argument that if you fight for a belt and it's a draw, then the belt's vacant.
Even if
because nobody won it. It was up to be won, and nobody won it.
Even if everyone thought Vargas won, Vargas out then. But just say that scenario, it's still a draw. So if you're not honouring if you're not going to honour the WBC, if you're not going to honour the immediate rematch because it was a draw, because you thought Vargas won, then you're saying your judges can't do the fucking job. Now we're saying your judges can't do the job anyway because we thought Ball would. But I mean, no, I don't see what you have to make it a rematch. And I think, listen, Frank Warren, who doesn't like to complain much, he'd be bang on that. No, he was one happy on the night. I don't think.
Well, there is another option.
Well, Ray Ford has offered him a fight.
Ray Ford's offered him a fight.
Still,
no, we haven't caught up. Since
you got to go into that with a title fight though.
Since the Ray Ford win over Otabek Kolmatov, which by the way was predicted by one of our hosts, not Barry or Andy.
I was almost right though, wasn't I?
You were 7 seconds away from being
7 seconds right. I tell you what, Ray Ford though showed.
What a way to win a world title!
Yeah, I think everyone said that, didn't they?
Unbelievable.
It was like, because I tweeted it. And I think you tweeted it, and I saw yours. That Twitter X, whatever. It was weird now because nothing comes out on timeline anymore, does it? I seen your tweet about 2 hours after I sent mine, but yours was sent like 4 hours before mine, What a way to win a world title.
I was sad enough to be up watching it. And by the way, I was buzzing after. I couldn't get to sleep for about an hour afterwards because of the way he won the world title. Unbelievable.
That's all the pizza, that is.
Yeah.
That's
so to lace the pizza with
cocaine. That's a digestion issue, that is. But like, to have all that skill, but not have that toughness. You don't know you got it until you got it, and that's just like, oh man.
Yeah, we spoke about it, didn't we, on the Twitter space at whatever time in the morning? It would have been in Saudi at that time.
What a mistake that was. That was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was up at 6 playing golf.
But we spoke about it then, where sort of Vargas, keep saying Vargas. Ford's in quite an interesting position from being like a US fighter who I think probably. Might have missed one, but I've seen pretty much every one of his pro fights because he's been on been on the DAZN at Matchroom USA shows. So like throughout the course of seeing his career unfold, he had very close fight with Edward Vasquez, which became a performance that aged well with what Vasquez did with Joe Cordina. He had the draw with Aaron Perez, and sort of at various different stages of his career. And we'd have gone through this when we were talking about Ray Ford and the future of him, where you're like, oh, he didn't look great there and he blows hot and cold. And I think what we saw against Kolmatov is a fighter who had been match tough and had learnt the lessons from that. And when the chips were down, the experiences of the Vasquez fight, of the Aaron Perez fight, stood him in good stead. But you still have to go and do it. Yeah. And to go and do it against a puncher on an away show, let's not forget about that as well.
Yes,
to go and you're not a puncher yourself. To walk the puncher down and get him out of there with 7 seconds to go, that is the best possible part of boxing. Yeah. Like watching that, it was unbelievable. Like Froch Taylor,
that sells you better than a 12-round shutout.
Yeah, absolutely. Like where people are looking, like anyone can look at that and resonate with that. I mean, it's one of the reasons, like Fury after
like
Wilder.
Out of the film.
It is. Yeah. It's like it, but you can relate. And it's one of the reasons why boxing does have the capability to reach such a wide audience of people, because the analogies that you can draw from a fight, however it goes, really can be put into life. And that's don't give up.
That's why boxing vocabulary is in everyday parlance.
Exactly.
And that's why you see boxing imagery in adverts all the time. And boxing films a lot of them are kind of just films about life with boxing.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
That's what they are most of the time, because everybody can relate to the struggle, the graft, the disappointment, the letdown, the perseverance. That's the key thing, isn't it? Keep believing and things will happen for you. And
perseverance, everything. That's it.
Everybody knows about that. Whatever it is that you do, because there's lots of lows. There's lots of lows in boxing. Like Gavin Gwynne. I know it didn't go his way the other night, but he still won because he nearly packed it in a couple of years ago, and in the end he didn't, and he stuck at it, and look what's happened. He's won European and British titles since then, and he's boxed in Saudi and made plenty of money from that fight.
Even before fighting, I was talking to him about, we were in the amphitheatre auditorium before, in the Greece auditorium. I said, look at this, Gav. Like you were like me. Most of your careers in leisure centres. You know what I mean? And you box in a big arena or a stadium. I had a chance a few times, and you're like, oh, this is mega. Like that was different. The whole build-up. Multiple champions don't have that sort of build-up all week that they all were involved with. It's just crazy stuff. You look at this, you never thought in life. Forget what he's getting. I don't know what he's got paid. They're not getting, these kids are not getting mega million, not getting the millions like the other big top of the bill, but they're getting paid more than they usually would, double maybe, or close to that maybe.
I think so.
They're probably getting it, but their guys are taking it before they even see it. Bad side of boxing. Another book Andy's going to write about. Yeah. But ultimately, right, Nick Ball.
Make a note of that.
right. And I didn't mention anybody.
That's okay, man. Don't worry.
Everybody. But Nick Ball, right, he's going to want it to go. He'll want to go to that Ray 4 fight with a title of his own for bargaining. I would have thought. He'll want the Vargas fight more than any other fight. I'm pretty sure of that. And Frank Warren will do everything in his power to get that rematch as quick as he can.
I wonder with Vargas. I mean, I know he stepped up to super feather and boxed to Shaki Foster and he lost, but it was a really good fight and he didn't do himself any kind of disservice. I don't know how hard the weight is.
Oh mate, you're dead.
You said to me that in the week, yeah.
He
balance was gone.
It was funny, like when they did the weigh-in was at lunchtime rather than when it actually was ceremonially
just to really tempt you.
Yeah. You don't want to keep these lads hanging around until 8 o'clock in the evening when they've got to make weight. So they came and did it where I was staying and where they were all staying at lunchtime. And Ball was 126 bang on, stripped. He stripped first time. He's obviously got it down to a fine art, and he looked really good. It wasn't like he looks absolutely done. But he obviously just wants to hit it on the nail, which he did. Then Vargas jumped on and he was 125 exactly. And they said immediately, well, he was 125.8 on our scales less than an hour ago. He hasn't been to the toilet. So they're kind of suggesting that the scales were light. But that didn't really work, because you can't, if you're the border control who were in charge, you can't just say, well, if your bathroom scale said that, then these must be light, obviously. Yeah. And all the other fighters, they came in
weighs in on the same scale.
Everybody else came in where they'd have been light too if that had been the case. But I wonder whether he is going to move up and maybe
overshot the weight.
Maybe just vacate that belt.
Usually when a guy like that who's big for the weight,
a pound under, it's a lot, isn't it?
And a pound under. Like I used to be £2 under because I was too small for the weight. It was clear to see. But I mean, when you find a guy who's like a pound under, so big and they're a pound under, they've been trying so hard. They've been overweight. They've been trying so hard that they've gone too far. Like overshot.
Or their scales are wrong and they didn't realise it.
Yeah, but no. But I mean, they're too worried about being close to weight, so they try to do as much as they can. They just dehydrated and skip. But I think he is too big for the weight, because all week, especially the last couple of days, his balance looked awful.
He does have a leg injury, which is something that.
Oh yeah, but this is like, he looked like, I thought there was an issue with his.
Because you said to me, didn't you, about the balance and whether or not...
he looked like he looked like an old man. I thought, he's, if anything, he looks dangerously. But I think that's the weight, when you're just so weak. And I do. I've seen it in other fighters, see, especially as an amateur, when you're losing half a stone in a day to make the weight. It's a ridiculous fight. But you're weighing at 6 and boxing at 8, that sort of thing. And like back in the 80s, it was horrific. And you see how they're like. Their balance is awful. They're so tired. So when they stood there for long, you could see them starting to... And when you're a kid, you have to go to church. When you're stand up for ages, because you're a kid, you can't concentrate.
We've all seen it, haven't we? We've all seen it at shows, even recently.
And I think his last...
he didn't know he was going to faint.
No.
But he looked
fragile.
He looked old.
But I think his last 9 fights have all gone the distance now.
Yeah, his last stoppage was in 2016.
And that's his, 38th fight at the weekend, wasn't it? So that's a lot of rounds.
He's a good operator, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he absolutely is.
He's good to watch, man.
And it's not like he's been really bashed up at any point.
But clearly well schooled, and he's got that. We spoke about it beforehand as well, didn't we? We spoke about kind of on the weight. That O'Shaquie Foster fight took a while to happen. It got ordered by the WBC, then it got pushed. So he wouldn't have been thinking about making 126 for, I don't know, over a year of his career.
He hadn't done it since July 22.
So that's a long, and to not even be thinking about that either. Like,
and that's his 5th fight in 5 years, and he's been this was his 15th year as a pro, because he turned over, like they pretty much all do in Mexico, as a teenager. That's how he's been at this a long time. So he might just think to himself, even if he's not going to be ordered to rematch Nick Ball, he might look at someone like Ball and just think, I don't really need that anymore.
That youth, that aggression.
Let's give myself 4 more pounds to see what happens, and maybe I'm not too far from the end.
Okay, right. Let's move on and talk about another world title fight that was on the card. Israel Madrimov against Magomed Kurbanov. Barry, there was a bit of a will they, won't they?
I was gutted when it was on, first of all. I mean, it was a really interesting fight, because it was like 9 fights on the bill, and they put Adelaide. I thought, it's going to be so long now. Such a long night. It wasn't any good, Madrimov.
Yeah, we all sat here and we spoke about kind of...
I thought the feet were different, weren't they?
He again seemed to me like we went through this in the preview of it, and you mentioned it on the broadcast.
You watched the Sky one, did you?
I did, yes.
Oh, wanker.
I did. But anyway,
absolute fucking wanker. Unbelievable.
But anyway, where you mentioned about that the first couple of rounds of the Sorrow fight, and we needed
you get a month's free subscription.
The extended, I definitely don't. The extended version. I pay for everything myself, so I can kick off just as a consumer, if nothing else.
I pay for the boxing news, which is ridiculous. Go on, carry on.
Anyway, yeah, I forgot what I was going to say now. But anyway, like it seemed to me that Madrimov that turned up, the more settled, there was thought to his work, the right hand to the body, the jab to the body. He methodically, Barry, broke Kurbanov down, and kind of the fight was sort of over before you really knew it, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there was a combination. He had him in the corner, he did, just before he hit him with that lovely overhand right, wasn't there? Before he hit him with that shot, that it was over then.
Yeah,
when Kurbanov was just in the corner, he couldn't get out of the way.
Yeah,
and you just thought he stopped throwing punches. I think he didn't want the referee to stop it, but he didn't want to carry on.
Yeah,
do you know that? I think
it was because
he gave up without giving up. I think
that's exactly it. if you get stopped in a world title fight in the 5th round on your feet, you would expect normally some kind of protest, and there wasn't any because he couldn't do a thing with Madrimov, could he?
Yeah,
There was just quite a big gulf between the two, as it turned out, and that was always a possibility because Kurbanov undefeated, but Michel Soro definitely beat him in that fight.
And people will say Liam Smith as well.
I watched that Liam Smith fight. It was in lockdown. I remember watching it on Fight TV, and I thought, shout out to Fight TV now, and never give me any work. No, and I thought he won, Smith. I mean, it was everything was close, but I thought he was close, but I thought he was a clear winner. If that makes any sense.
Clear winner of a close fight.
But Soro absolutely did win.
Yeah, he definitely.
Fight. That was wider, and it was just as simple as that in the end, wasn't it? Madrimov was a lot better.
His feet were fantastic. It really were. And then the more control he had, the more fluent he became, the better his footwork were. And the Kurbanov at stages end, coming very quickly, looked lost.
Yeah, and he knew what was coming, didn't he? And that was why he like you say, he wasn't complaining when it got stopped.
He's a welcome addition, Madrimov, though. In a division that's
wide open
on
now.
the transition again, isn't it?
I tweeted about afterwards. There's some great fights for him. There's Tim Tszyu.
I mean, the IBF.
Virgil Ortiz is now mandatory for his title.
German.
The IBF and the WBC are on the same night.
Crawford,
I think early April. Both vacant titles being boxed for.
The WBC, who's boxing for the... no, that's at the end of April. That's Sergio Bohachuk against Sebastian Fundora. That's on the March.
And then the other one is Kulkai against Murtaza.
Yeah. That's the IBF.
The same day.
Yeah. That's the IBF. That's on... So the...
Well, they're close together at least.
Yeah, they're not on the same card. The Fundora fight is on the Zhu Thurman undercard.
That's right.
On the 31st.
That's right. Because
that's the 30th, rather.
That's a 155, isn't it? So that's not for...
The main event is, The Zhu Thurman fight is the main, which is meant... Yeah, it's 155 because the WBO wouldn't sanction.
Oh, okay, fair. That's fair. That's
for their belt.
But it's not understandable.
But they've left it at that. They haven't said, look, if you do this, then we'll...
But also, randomly, so if Tim Tszyu loses, he does get stripped of his title.
Well, why is that? Because it's a non-title fight.
I don't know for the WBO, but that's what's happening. Them's the rules, apparently.
Yeah, the whole thing's a bit strange.
It's very strange. Yeah.
Maybe allowing him to fight without, if he's due a mandatory, an obligation, they go, okay, well, you can fight. No, they shouldn't do that. Because there's some poor fellas going... Well, hang on a minute. What about me?
I don't understand it, but anyway, we can.
Remember the other night I said, I can love boxing. I hate boxing.
The thing with one of the things I want to point out with Madrimov, we've not seen that much of him. Like you consider, like the Soro rematch was in July of 2022. He's only boxed once since then. Whatever he's been doing in the gym, I think has worked. I think there has been that continuation of the Soro fight where he has just calmed down a little bit more. Don't your movement's fantastic. You always say it with the speed. You'll always have the speed. You'll always have great movement. You don't need to be so over exaggerated and so wasting your time. Just settle down a little bit, break him down. Yeah. That fight was only going one way from the first 45 seconds of the first round.
The feet. It's going to sound a bit weird, maybe if I get it right. It'll sound great. If I get it wrong, it'll sound shit. The feet. Like you've got to put your feet in position to throw the punch. But I mean, the way he moves his feet, you got to do the work and then let your magical feet work around it. You know what I mean? Put you in the position to do the next bit of work. Before he was thinking, right, I think he was thinking, I'm gonna do this and get over there really quick. Watch this now, and then he was sort of being too much. He overcomplicated stuff. Now he's just doing there, sitting down on the shots, doing the work, and then as soon as he sees you tire, then all that magical footwork comes into play. And then he can absolutely destroy you. He's a problem, he is. I'm telling you, he's a real problem. On that showing, Kurbanov, whatever you call him, I'm not sold on him. He's a tricky customer and quite neat. But that shoulder roll doesn't work for him. It's not like Ryan Garcia's shoulder roll, but it's better than that. But I mean, it doesn't quite work for him, I don't think. Again, at this level, imagine against Fundora. But he's clever, tricky, but not. He's up against a guy who ticks that box much bigger than he does. So I always thought he was going to win Madrimov, but I didn't think it would be a stop. I thought it was going to be a 12-round tippy-tappy sort of fight. Actually, not tippy-tappy, but...
Or if he did, I thought the same, but I thought he'd break him down.
Kurbanov would do a turn, miss, just to out the shot, and Madrimov would be slipping and dipping and spinning, and it'd be a bit like scrappy affair.
I thought a 12-round pretty clear Madrimov win was what we would get.
You could see very early on, couldn't you? The nose started reddening and the face started reddening of Kurbanov, and quite quickly. I mean,
he's got a long reach, Madrimov, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So he did try and tuck up behind that shoulder like he always does, Kurbanov, but it didn't quite work, did it?
No.
We saw before.
He boxes like a fighter from the Midwest in America, doesn't he, Kurbanov? But just a not not a fighter from the Midwest. He boxes behind the shoulder roll, and it's all. If you watch him, it's like an imitation of the
elbow stick.
It's that Midwest style.
It's that I watched Mayweather growing up.
It's good seeing,
which is what usually happens to people who do that.
It's good seeing that division kind of reignited, though, isn't it? Because becoming undisputed is a magnificent achievement, obviously, but Charlo and Castano boxed for them all in sort of mid 2021, and then a year later they had the rematch, and Charlo won them all and then never defended them.
Yeah, there's been
so
a couple
no one's in the last 3 years almost.
It's
two people
have
boxed for all 4 belts. It's not good enough.
Because like 54, go back a few years, more than a few years now, because we're getting old. It's sad. We had sort of Canelo down there and Cotto down there, and it was a bit more of a sort of like more of the old guard established names. Like Canelo still, he's gone up, and then there was that period of kind of the post era of those guys at 54 where Jamal Charlo went and hoovered it up, and now we've got like this new era now, haven't we, of like the basically post Canelo Charlo of last year, where there's a throne to be claimed, and you've got some good fighters in there coming up behind
that division.
Some
good
really
fighters
good fights
who will go not totally under the radar, but will be underestimated.
But in a way, that's kind of good in a sense of you can make those fights. It's not welterweight, where it's the glamour and all of this. And that's one of the reasons why I think 54, particularly when PBC had like, I know he's still down it, but like Lubin and J-Rock and those guys, where like the activity was great because they're not welterweights and they're not being able to sit around and command vast sums of money. I'm sure they're getting paid well for the level that they're at, but still. And those fights were kind of happening. And then, but that sort of phase, I guess, ended up with what you mentioned there, Castano, Charlo, and now we kind of like, I don't think anyone expects Charlo to box at 54 in the future. No. Now we're in that equally sort of exciting part where the belts are being, and it's similar in middleweight as well, like the post Gennady Golovkin, Canelo era middleweight. I don't think middleweight necessarily has the sort of the talent pool of 54, and also we've got the 47s coming up. Like, is that Errol Spence? Is it Terence Crawford? Boots Ennis has talked about 54. So I think there's some time for some very exciting activity.
Yeah, I really like it when you've got fighters just from loads of different places.
Yeah.
You know, Fundora, Bohachuk.
That's going to be a really interesting fight for that reason.
Yeah, Kulkai, Tim Zuf. They're from all over, aren't they? And that was, I remember looking at the main event or the top 3 fight press conference for last Friday and just thinking there's 6 fighters here representing 5 different continents. This is great. We've got UK and Africa in Joshua. Parker's from New Zealand. Ngannou's from Cameroon. Zhang's from China. Vargas is from Mexico. I thought this is brilliant because, this is a global sport. And when you get a big showcase like that, to be able to show that it really is a good thing.
Kolkai, I can't believe when was his World Championship? 2007 or something?
He won the World Amateur Championship around then, and then
I remember the World Amateur Championship. Box Nation, we did.
He's never won a world title.
Box Nation's back.
Interim champion. Yeah, it is, I think he won an interim title, and he boxed Demetrius Andrade.
Yeah, he did box Andrade.
Andrade for the interim belt.
But I can't believe he's still around. Madness,
Yeah. Right. Okay. Final fight that we're going to talk about from this past weekend. We've briefly touched on it before. Is what has to be considered a standout performance from Mark Chamberlain in a big step up for him against Gavin Gwynne. Barry, going to come to you first. I think Mark Chamberlain. I think we spoke about it before we went in there, whereby from the outside potentially doesn't look spectacular, doesn't obviously pass the eye test, but when you get in there, and I think this past weekend was a career best performance from him, and I think he did a very, very good job on what is a very good fighter in Gavin Gwynne.
See, the eye was I could say this, get out of the way first. The eye was a real problem for Gavin, of course, obviously, but it was caused by a punch. I'm pretty sure it was. No, it was.
Yeah, it was,
And so that's an issue for him. But Gavin Gwynne suffocates you. I'd say what Chambers did so well, never panicked. I seem to say this thing every week, don't I? But he made every punch he threw was correct. None of his punches were too short or too long. And under that intense pressure that he's never been under before, that's the truth of it. That's really impressive. He hits hard and clean with every shot. So when you've got a guy coming at you, forcing, trying to suffocate you, he just little step, bam, bam, little step, southpaw, sorry, bam, bam, little step, and boom, all the time. Always found enough space to make sure he got full extension on every shot. It's very clever. She doesn't look clever because he looks really tall and rigid. You think, because he haven't got that athleticism, it doesn't seem that he has that if I put him under pressure, he only got one way to go, and that's back and up. And then I got him. So especially like Gwynne, I'll get over him and I'll start winging shots everywhere. And Gwynne's not a big puncher, but that after 5 or 6 rounds tires you out. To those punches that didn't hurt, all of a sudden you feel it. Like, we seen Sean McComb, didn't we? He just like quit in the end, because it was just the pressure was too much for him. I thought that might be I picked Chamberlain to win, actually, but again, there was another one that really should pick Gwynne in that fight. But he was fantastic. I thought he was outstanding. Arguably the performance of the night. I thought he was really, really good. And I thought, this is a hard kid to beat. He's a solid puncher with every punch he throws, but the thing, he always finds the space to generate the maximum amount that he can get out of every shot.
Full of variety, was really good as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
He threw every shot in the book, head and body.
But he created space for every punch he threw. Under pressure, the guy who's trying to get too close to you, he just always found enough space to throw a shot. And that's I tell you, because I know I was a counter puncher. It's a very hard thing to do. It's almost impossible to do. He did it quite, I thought, relatively comfortably. He looked comfortable throughout the fight. And again, you can see the eye, and he thought it might be a matter of time. But even that didn't make him go, oh, I got him. Nothing. He just stayed level. His whole temperament stayed really level. And that's a real trait to have. That is brilliant. I thought he was fantastic. Really did. I was pleasantly surprised how good he was. I've seen him before, obviously, and I thought he was good. But you're never quite sure on the way up with people who can punch like him, because at the lower level, you hit them a few times when you got power, and people tend to go, oh, I don't fancy this because I might want to box next week. But when you get a level, people just go, they absorb it or tough it out and find a way to win. Like a Joseph Parker, and they beat you up. And Gwynne's that sort of fighter, can absorb the power to get the win. But no, he got bashed up, bless him.
I think we always talk about it here, Andy, about, as fighters go up the levels and what they look like as they're going up the levels. I don't think Mark Chamberlain really could have. I mean, I know the European title wasn't on the line, but still.
It's fucking madness in itself, isn't it?
For a conversation for another time. But still, that is the European champion. He's moved up to that level, whether the belt's on the line or not. And really, again, couldn't really have passed the test with any more flying colours.
No, he really couldn't. I mean, I've never seen him live before. I thought he was brilliant. I mean, I was so impressed with it, because I think I said on the ring walk that there was a lot of belief in him, and there would need to be to give him that kind of step up, because any kind of step up's a step into the unknown. And if it turns out he's not quite what they think, or he has a bad night, then he's bang in trouble against someone like Gwynne. And he was tremendous. As you said, you look at him and you don't feel like there's any one particular thing that looks incredible. You don't look at his feet and think, wow, but they're always underneath him. He finds the right distance. Like Barry said, he would back up and give himself just enough room so that his leverages were there, and he throws plenty of punches, and not many of them miss completely. Almost all of them hit something. And he's obviously got some natural power to him. And yeah, it was a pretty supersonic performance, to be honest. And for Gwynne, he'll feel unlucky, because you can get hit and not pick up that kind of damage. That will have happened to him loads of times before. But it was a punch, and the writing was on the wall from that point onwards, really. In the corner, I think after 2 or 3 rounds, Tony Borg was just trying to, give him some belief and just say, listen, we'll get that swelling down. Don't worry about that. He's blowing a gasket over there. We're still in this. And you knew that he was kind of, that's what he was doing. There was a bit of kidology, but at the same time, he would have looked to that eye and thought, not much chance of getting that swelling down. Doesn't really look like he is blowing a gasket. But one of those two things, if both, are not impossible. And then a couple of rounds later, he basically said that you're going to have to knock him out now. And then when he could see that wasn't going to happen, he stopped it. Yeah. Well, the referee did in the end. But
it was a good stoppage, I think.
Yeah, I thought so. He did make Chamberlain work hard. He did. So you think, oh, that's what he does, and he gives up those early rounds to try and wear you down. But he also thought he's making him work hard, but Chamberlain never looked troubled by that pace.
No, he looked like he was loving it.
Yeah. Can I just say about one fight, because you might not mention it? How good was Louis Green?
Brilliant. Oh. How scary is Louis Green, by the way?
Oh, he's I said to Dan about
Hawani afterwards when he said talked to him about his losses. Like, no, Ariel, I won against good kids, and you see Ariel go.
Yeah.
Dan and Back never met him. I said, "Would you meet this Louis Green?" I said, "He's a really nice guy." But I tell you what, you walk away thinking, imagine beating him in an alley.
But what a massive win! I was picking up my luggage at the airport.
I picked him to win actually, but not that conclusively.
On Saturday, Louis Green and Jack McGann were just stood there having a chat. That's
what it's all about.
That's one of the great things about boxing, and you feel for McGann because it's earlier in his career, and he hasn't got an awful lot behind him to kind of that he can point out and think, okay, well, but I did this and I've done that, and it'll be hard. It's going to be hard for him because that was. He was 90 seconds in and he's got knocked out. Basically, he got back to his feet, which was good. He did really well to get back up.
And that's probably like the very small.
That'll be what he can
grace.
cling to. Yeah,
I think that was too. I always felt that. I always said it's a big step up for him. A lot of fights like that, when they establish people at that level versus guys stepping up. I thought that was a bit too much of a step up. Because he beat Robert Zhang Jr. and the way he beat him, they won him on again in a bigger fight, and that's fair enough. And there's nothing wrong with it. You have to take the risk. But looking back now, it was too much of a step. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. I think when you consider how brilliant a fight Louis Green versus Sam Gilly was, and the level of that fight,
and that will now happen again. You'd have thought.
Look at the other guys you got to be good at, and he's had good wins. I used to do him on the old shows back in the day. I can't mention who it was, but and I covered loads of his fights, and he was always a good fight to watch. A welterweight that was, but he could be outboxed, but he's always tough. He'd never give anyone an easy fight. Lewis Crocker. Talking about world level, Harry Scarf's boxing been eliminated for the world title. Obviously, those Sam Gilly, he's losing to good fighters. By the way, he'd have an hard night.
I was going to say he hurt Gilly a couple of times in that fight. Really, McGann
was the border put McGann and Gilly together for the British, so presumably that'll be Gilly versus Green again.
Watch that fight again.
Yeah,
that was a
brilliant fight. It's a tremendous fight.
I mean, Sam Gilly's like one of the most entertaining fighters in the country.
I did this fight against Drew Brown.
Oh mate, that was one of the best fights I've ever seen.
I can't remember being at such a good fight.
I really enjoyed those fights that they had on the card where you've got someone who
super welter. Yeah.
There was a few of those fights where you've got one fighter who's much more experienced than the other one, but the other one being somebody that their team and promoter obviously really believed in. Yeah. And we had the same thing with Justice Hooney against Kevin Lorena. That was another really good fight. And Lorena almost pulled it out of the bag right at the end.
Obviously, we're all independent and we're all impartial, but
no, that night.
How brilliant would it? Sorry, Justice Hooney, if you're watching this, shout Justice Hooney. How brilliant would it have been if he'd have pulled that out of the fight with the week that he'd had? Obviously, with a very tragic passing of his mother at a very short notice ahead of the fight. That was the rocky ending to that fight. He just couldn't summon up that energy, could he? Just couldn't do it. And Hooney was gone, by the way. Fair play to him for toughing that out. Unbelievable. But he was gone. He was in the trouble.
Twist, didn't he?
And he stayed hit. He got hurt with about 1:20 or 1:30 to go. And he stayed hit for the whole rest of the round. Managed to keep himself on his feet.
But he was boxing well up at that point.
He was.
That was a big step up for him. I know it was another cruiserweight, like to beat. He was another cruiserweight. But full of experience. Two really guys with loads of experience there who can negate the natural strength, really. And he's done a good job on both of them.
And he will take benefits from that. He'll say, I was hurt, but I saw it out and I did this and like that.
There's so many. There's some boxes
they want to slow down with him a little bit.
Yeah, but again, that's for the matchmaker. For him and his trainer in their heads, I've done this, I've done that. And then the matchmaker goes, maybe not. Just for a little bit.
Lorena will, I'd imagine he'll win a Bridgerweight world title. Yeah, because that's where he's targeting.
Yeah. The interim champ at Bridgerweight. Okay, right. We have come to the end of today's show. We're not going to have time to do full previews of this weekend's action, but we're going to get our picks in using the brand new Boxing News app Prediction League. So we're going to go over to Mr. Andy Clark first, because on the rare occasion that Mr. Andy Clark is able to put a prediction. Shut up!
He's using your profile to
Andy, going to come to you first.
Mug you if you do this.
Nathan Heaney versus Brad Pauls, 12 rounds for the middleweight British title.
I think this is a dangerous one for Nathan Heaney, because Brad Pauls is a fighter I've seen quite a lot of, and I think there's a decent chance he might be able to drag Heaney into his fight. He froze a bit when he boxed for the English title against Tyler Denny, Brad Pauls, but he knows that, and I think he's much better equipped to handle this occasion than he was that one, because he just didn't do what he normally does. But I'll pick Heaney because I think that performance against Bentley, that'll kind of make him grow. And this is dreamland for him, being where he is. And he'll want to keep it going as much as he can. So I think points. I'll say Heaney points.
Devin Heaney points. So we're going to do these one by one. So card each. So not card each, same card. But anyway, Andy, Liam Davies versus Eric Robles Ayala.
I think Davis is on a bit of a roll. So I don't know loads about the other guy, I'll be honest, but I'll pick Davis for that one as well, I think.
Don't watch Channel
by
5.
way
Don't
of...
watch Channel 5, do you? Not really.
I think he'll really be out to try and prove a point. So I'll say stoppage.
Okay. Joe Joyce versus Cash Ali.
Joyce stoppage.
Zach Parker versus Tyrone Zoiga.
That's a kind of interesting left field fight that I wasn't expecting. Tyrone Zoiga back in the day was a decent fighter. He was on a good run, and then I don't really know what happened in the run up to that Rocky Fielding fight. Really good performance by Rocky Fielding, but I remember covering that fight, and Zoiga just didn't. I don't know what happened, but I thought he let himself down that night. What he's got left now, they've picked him for a reason, so I'll say Parker.
By way of?
I'll say Parker by way of stoppage.
And last but not least on that card, Dennis McCann versus Brad Strand.
I like that one. I do like that fight. I'll say McCann. Points.
Okay. A rare occasion here on the Boxing Show. We've got a full set of predictions out of Mr. Andy Clark. There we go.
Well, who knows? I could end up being there.
We haven't broke out our Andy Clark sitting on the fence graphic yet, but we definitely will. Barry, going to come to you. Nathan Heaney versus Brad Pauls. It's such a pain in the ass.
I don't want to do it though. Taking the piss. Yeah, I think it is. I agree with Andy. I think it's a real risky fight. Everything talked about Heaney now, but Brad Pauls is a good fighter.
Punch a little bit as well.
Yeah, and also the Tyler Denny defeat. No, that's
not a bad defeat.
Aged very well.
All of a sudden, he lost the European champion. Never mind. But I think Heaney's length is a problem. He's so long with the punches. I think that's the problem. I do think that he'll stop Pauls late. I don't know why I think that. I think he might be behind actually. And Pauls is a better actual boxer, technically shape. Well, maybe keeps his shape a little bit better, can punch quicker, and might have the better start. But I think Heaney will catch it up and be awkward for him. I think he'll have a bad night. It's a good fight, that is. Close fight, tough fight.
Very good.
Yeah. So there you go. Stoppage for Heaney. There you go.
Liam Davis versus Eric Robles Ayala. Now you mentioned there to Andy that you are a bit more familiar with Ayala.
I've seen one more fight than you. Yeah, he's tough. He is, but I just think now you got something to really watch him off the McGregor fight. So I think Davis just keeps it long and wins on points.
Joe Joyce.
I don't think he has a massive trouble, by the way, either.
Good fighter, Liam Davis. Joe Joyce versus Cash Ali.
Oh, he knocks him out.
Cash Ali by stoppage.
Zach
Parker, Tyrone Zoiga. You heard it here first. So
what's that?
Joe Joyce by stoppage. Yeah. You said he knocks him out.
No, I do.
Cash Ali.
I don't think Cash Ali should be fighting. Not where I saw him the last time. That's a worry for his health. I gotta be honest.
Zach Parker versus Tyrone Zoiga.
I think he knocks him out as well.
Parker by stoppage.
Yeah, I do. I think
And Dennis McCann versus Brad Strand.
I think he stops Strand around mid to late. Is that a prediction? Is that a part of
you take it off. So the way the tiebreaker works is you have an allotted rounds, and then you pick how many rounds.
Block rounds. I pick. Yeah.
No. So it's like you have 5 fights. Let's say whatever the stoppage. Say Joyce gets a stoppage in 4 rounds. So he takes 6 rounds off the tiebreaker. So it's like, because if everyone picks the same thing, the tiebreaker. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah. But you can find out by downloading the brand new Boxing News app. Boxing News Predict and Score, available now in the Apple Store and the Play Store. Barry Jones was showing off his phone. There we go.
At my house.
So don't forget to get your predictions in, free to enter, and you could win a cash prize. But there we go.
Is that what I got to win my money?
That's right. Wages. Sing for your supper here.
I'm just going to win your wages, man.
But that's all we have time for today. I think we've covered an awful lot. What was a very, very exciting night of boxing this past Friday in sunny old Saudi Arabia. But that's all we have time for here on the Boxing Show. So thank you very much to Mr. Barry Jones and to Mr. Andy Clark, and we'll catch up with you next time.